hybrid of spiritual plants cultivating immortality. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. My fault for giving you the opportunity to make mistakes. All the words that Chen Jing had prepared froze in an instant. Allied forces? Why not form an alliance earlier or later, but go out to fight at this time? How can we survive? Seeing his stomach chash, Chen Jing couldn't help asking, Jinga seems to have something to say. Just say it. I rescued someone outside last month. Chen Jing sighed and didn't say too much, as long as his father could understand, and continued, that person was none other than the direct disciple of the King Nang sect. When I found her, she was already dying. The elders and other King Nang sect envoys who came with her were all killed. Suddenly, everyone was in an uproar. Chen Jing's second uncle's voice trembled, and he said in disbelief, but, is there a misunderstanding? My father was there at the time, on the night, when he came back. After hearing what Chen Jing said, Chen Jing's eyes widened. He had never taken it seriously. It was so chaotic outside, and it was just rescuing an injured person. His son would definitely be able to handle it. But he only now knew that it was actually a direct disciple of the King Nang sect. Brat, you said not to make it public. It turns out that it is not just a random word. It really can't be made public. Chen Jing looked at the others and nodded heavily. It is true. It is true. Second uncle, third uncle, second grandfather, third grandfather, all the old and young, all perked up. Second uncle asked, is there any trouble? Yes. Everyone's eyes were not right. Chen Jing smiled bitterly and said, it's not our family that is in trouble. The uncles and elders breathed a sigh of relief. It's the whole Ning mansion that is in trouble. Just let out a breath. Now can't help but suck it back again. Chen Jing continued, when the direct disciple of the King Nang sect was awake, he said that the whole Ning mansion would be finished, but unfortunately she was in a very bad state and couldn't say it clearly. I came here to discuss with my father and the elders whether to move the whole family out of a Ning mansion and avoid it. Everyone was silent. Chen Jing said, it's impossible. Yes. He didn't say why it was impossible, because it was obvious. The coalition was just formed, and you and your family fled. Fine. If I don't kill your whole family, how can I lead this team? Deserters must die, no matter where they are. Maybe staying in Anning Mansion will face unknown dangers, but at this juncture, running away will definitely lead to early death. The second uncle said, we can send some of the tribesmen to evacuate first. If there is a catastrophe, they won't be caught in one fell swoop. Chen Jing pondered, and suddenly asked Chen Jing, what do you think, Jinga? Not appropriate. Chen Jing glanced at the tribesmen around him and said, maybe now is the last chance to evacuate, but it's probably not now. What do you mean? The King Nang sect hasn't been able to get anyone in for several months, and the people inside may not be able to get out. Isn't it the same for us to catch insects, snakes and wild animals? If it doesn't react, we slowly approach it. If it reacts, we immediately use a fork to go over it. Now that the coalition has been established, it is a reaction. If we run away now, it's probably too late. Everyone's scalp was numb, and they felt a sense of fear of being covered in a sack. It was like a frog that had been boiled and had no strength. After being reminded of the situation, it was already powerless to turn the tide. Chen Jing nodded slowly and said, Jinga is right. The coalition must have a conclusion. We will wait for the conclusion before making plans. In fact, it means to leave everything to fate. The matter of the coalition forces. At this point, Chen Jing's voice was a little low, and he said, 3 people are needed. Are you willing to go? The second uncle immediately said, I'll go. Me too. The third uncle smiled. Suddenly, a slightly old voice overwhelmed everyone, and the voice said, I'll go. Dad. Chen Jing was slightly startled. After all, I'm in the late stage of Tankyo. I can do 3 things by myself. It's better than you young and strong people being thrown into the coalition forces and dying without knowing how. The old man stroked his beard and said, Dinger, take good care of the family. If what my grandson said is true, then the next step will be a test for our Chen family. You brothers, you must work together. Grandpa, Chen Jing shouted. It's not like I won't come back. You guys are just acting like girls and cursing me. The old man waved his hand and said, don't discuss it anymore. Let's do it. Chen Jing took a deep breath and bowed his head deeply. Father, I'm an unfilial son. In the solemn atmosphere, the third sister rushed in and shouted loudly, second brother is missing again. He must have secretly gone down the mountain without telling anyone. Dad, why don't you punish him? Then she saw Chen Jing standing there with a dark face. Second brother, I didn't say anything. The youngest sister was shocked. Dad, I'll go back first. Chen Jing said. Take good care of that girl. Chen Jing nodded, then waved his hand and said, take your third sister with you. Second brother, hey, it was useless. Chen Jing took the collar of the third sister and left. He had a blank expression all the time, which made the youngest sister panic. She made all kinds of flattering expressions and movements. Don't be angry, second brother. I was just kidding. It's not because you're angry. Chen Jing touched her head, and then he realized that his younger sister had grown up very fast. She should be over 1.5 meters tall, and she was no longer a child. It's just that he had always treated her as a child, and she didn't seem to realize that she had grown up. Then why is second brother angry? The younger sister asked cautiously. Because of myself. Chen Jing found a large blue stone, swept away the fallen leaves, and sat on it. The younger sister immediately followed and sat side by side, listening carefully to his next words. Little sister, what will happen if grandpa is gone one day? Why would grandpa be gone? The younger sister widened her eyes, then thought for a while, and said, but I still have father and mother, and older brother and second brother. They are all gone. The younger sister kept her eyes wide open, paused, and said seriously, impossible. Then she said anxiously, they can't really be gone. Did I do something wrong? No, it was others who did something wrong. Chen Jing touched her little head, looked at the leaves that had turned yellow, and said, they were wrong, and I was wrong too, because I was not strong enough, and gave others the opportunity to make mistakes. So, I have to change my mistakes first. Is not strong enough a mistake? The younger sister didn't quite understand, so she could only ask a small part that she could understand. Of course not. Chen Jing shook his head and whispered, in this world, the weak are the majority, and the strong are the minority. The strong became strong by absorbing the support of the weak, but in turn, put shackles on the necks of the weak. How absurd. I have no intention of correcting these mistakes. I just want to farm. But why? Why force me? Chapter 27, a sharp turn for the worse. Summer always seems to be yesterday, but before you know it, the green leaves have turned yellow, and the occasional cool autumn breeze is refreshing. Chen Jing has been refining pills like crazy since the last family meeting. All the accumulated condensed. 2 of the 5 internal organ spiritual orifices have been opened. It's time to consider how to open the remaining 3 spiritual orifices. Chen Jing was in distress. Suddenly, the cry of his third sister came from outside. Second brother, go to see grandpa, woo woo. He immediately put away the alchemy furnace and ran to the main house as fast as possible. The main house was already full of people. Chen Jing was treating the old man on the stretcher. The old man was covered in blood and was very weak, but his consciousness was still clear. The old man was the one from the Chen family who went to the coalition this time, Chen Jing's grandfather. Well, I didn't expect that I could still save my life, but it's a pity that I couldn't buy you more time. The old man looked listless and panting. Dad, don't say anything for now. Chen Jing suppressed his anger. It doesn't matter. The old man took a breath and said, this time, I'm lucky, but the Song family is really finished. Song family? Chen Jing opened his eyes wide and said in astonishment, could it be the old man of the Song family? Ha, this old fox is dead. The old man said this without much joy, but a little melancholy. When I was young, I was scheming against the old fox of the Song family, and I was always suppressed by him. I didn't expect that I would win here. The old fox Song lost his son in his old age, and all the middle-aged generation died unexpectedly. He couldn't support himself. This time the coalition army recruited people. He had to stand up with me, but if I die, there are descendants. Speaking of this, everyone felt a little sad. Although the Chen family and the Song family have some competitive relationship on weekdays, the intensity of this competition is not high. At most, they don't like each other. If the Song family really collapses, they won't be very happy. Chen Jing's eyes changed slightly. This is actually a very bad signal. Death is secondary. In this era, the death of a few people is not as big a thing as in the previous life, but the destruction of a family is different. In this environment, everyone lives together as a family. Death is okay, but the destruction of a family will really scare everyone. As expected. Father is seriously injured. Second brother, it should be you. And third brother to join the army next. Father pondered for a moment and said, the Song family's previous experience is a lesson for us. We must learn from it. Who knows when this war will end? There is no eye on the sword on the battlefield. If it is like the Song family, a generation of people died. The destruction of the family is not far away. What can I do? The second uncle's eyes flickered. The Song family is far away from our family, but the Jing family is very close to our family. If something happens, the Jing family may not be able to help us. Although my son is smart, the 5 people in the Jing family are not bad. We must be on guard. Chen Jing emphasized the words must be on guard. It means not only to be on guard, but also to find an opportunity to do something dirty. The powerful families usually control the fights between vassal families and try to maintain harmony. After all, when herding sheep, if 2 sheep fight too hard for the position of the leader, and one of them dies, it is the rancher who suffers the loss. But if one of the sheep is taken away by a wolf, the rancher does not care who will be the leader next, as long as it does not affect the wool production. Chen Jing listened silently, and then watched his second uncle, third uncle, and second grandfather go down the mountain with the coalition forces. Dad, why do you insist that my small family also send people to join the army? We have cultivation skills, but we don't know how to fight. We are in danger on the battlefield. The eldest brother Chen Gu clenched his fists, full of resentment. Ask your second brother. Chen Jing replied tiredly. Because it's cost effective, that's one. Chen Jing whispered, compared to losing their carefully trained clan soldiers, we, the vassals, are cheaper and more useful. We farm to support the clan soldiers of the nobles, and we go to the battlefield to save the lives of the clan soldiers of the nobles. That's what vassals are. Second, in this battle, the nobles actually have no idea, and they chose the way to best guarantee their strength. We only knew that something happened to the King Nang sect because we saved the disciples of the King Nang sect, and they must know this, so they are preserving their strength to deal with subsequent changes. But the consequence of such a way of playing is that these vassal families will suffer heavy losses. Chen Gu was very angry. Just the lives of the nobles are lives, aren't the lives of my Chen family lives. Yes. Before, there was the King Nang sect suppressing them, and at the same time, there was the King Nang sect to back them up. So of course they would choose a restrained, friendly, and sustainable way of playing. But now everything is chaotic and unclear, so of course the loss should be passed on first. It was passed on to the heads of the small families in the outer city. Next, the originally smooth war also became bumpy. Just as Chen Jing said, the destruction of the family is a very bad signal. The destruction of the family represents the current attitude of the wealthy family and conveys a clear signal. Although everyone is a farmer, there are not many stupid people who can inherit it. Especially when it comes to their own safety and interests, the really stupid will suddenly wake up at this time. On the battlefield, cannon fodder does not want to be cannon fodder, but cherishes life and pits teammates. Can this fight go smoothly? And this is a vicious circle. The more everyone wants to preserve their strength, the worse they fight. The worse they fight, the higher the casualties, and the more they want to preserve their own strength. The upper and middle levels of the 2 vassal families of the Lei family were all killed in the battle. The vassal family of the Mi family suffered heavy losses. The vassal family of the Duan family, the Chen family, the Jing family. Behind the battle reports, there is a gradually changing atmosphere. The erosion rain still has no intention of stopping. On the battlefield, countless mutant tree people were killed, but the mutant tree people appeared one after another like mushrooms after rain. Gradually, the coalition army was in name only. Small families were destroyed, and their clans were exterminated. The surrounding counties fell one by one in the flames of war. No one knew when it would end, but at this time, everyone was gradually despairing. Not despairing of survival, but despairing of the powerful families. Everyone realized that, if they wanted to survive, they could only rely on themselves. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Merit and Vow. As the coalition forces campaign to eliminate the mutated tree people stalled, the overall tactics had to shift from active offense to defensive contraction. Outside Anning Prefecture, large areas became dangerous areas. Where mortals could walk and live freely before, now there are no villages and barren farmlands. Outside the prefecture, more simple sheds and earthen houses were built. A large number of surviving mortals formed the outer city of the outer city, barely surviving on the charity of various forces in the prefecture. They divided into dozens of large and small vibrant social groups, based on their clan blood or street geography. Every day, they fought for a little bit of living resources. Although the coalition forces lost, and large areas became occupied areas, the sudden deterioration of the situation was also curbed. Although the outer city of the outer city was in chaos, it was at least a place to stay. The grain is coming. The grain is coming. It's the Chen family. Go over. Go over. Hula. A large group of people immediately gathered in one direction, but strangely, although they were anxious, they did not push or crowd too much and tried their best to maintain restraint. Then, at the end of the crowd, a young man dressed simply but handsomely came. Young Master Chen. Young Master Chen. Everyone cheered. Chen Jing couldn't help but twitch his lips and almost couldn't hold it. There is nothing more wonderful than this in life. His dream of being a master was realized in just a few months in an incredible way. Yes, he didn't live in the inner city, but the outer city at this time is already an inner city that is even more outer, so naturally, he has become the master of the inner city. Hiss. Okay. It can be regarded as satisfying the addiction of being a master. Chen Jing frowned, pretending not to hear everyone's shouting, and took out various things from the storage bag, such as rice, a big pot, a wooden board, etc. It's still the old rules. Everyone line up. The old and the young stand in front, and the young and the strong stand in the back. Did you hear me? Do as Master Chen said. A ferocious man roared at the crowd, and then turned his head flatteringly. Master Chen, I have explained it in advance. Everyone knows the rules. But he doesn't know the rules. The previous few times he came, there was a stampede. As a result, Master Chen got angry and directly chopped off the head of their love gang leader, which led to his promotion. Chen Jing didn't give him a good face. Stand in the back. Yes, yes, yes. The big man walked in a cat-like manner and stood respectfully at the end. This kind of dynamic social group can never be treated well at any time. If you give him a little color, he will dare to open a dyeing factory and become more and more vicious. And because of the huge gap in strength, there is no need to be gentle, just maintain absolute deterrence. And with a layer in the middle, you can be kinder to the common people at the bottom, because the common people dare to forget themselves, and a glance will make the dogs in the middle bite you for you. Chen Jing set up a big pot and started to cook porridge, saying, each person has a small bowl. If you have any illness, tell me and I will cure it. After the porridge is distributed, there are jobs on the board, such as plowing the land, repairing the house, and transporting goods. If you don't understand something, ask Wang Laodan. Wang Laodan. Wang Laodan immediately shouted here. Then he said loudly, work for Master Chen, and you will get a penny less. If you do a good job, you will get a reward. He didn't know why this immortal master from the inner city came to distribute porridge and diagnose diseases every now and then, and also did some things like repairing houses, repairing toilets, and opening up farmland, and paid a lot of wages. He could understand some of it, but he couldn't understand most of it. But so what? Compared with other masters in the inner city, this one is undoubtedly the kindest. In this case, he can do anything. Chen Jing finished distributing porridge today and also did some infrastructure construction to replace relief with work. Then he packed up his things and left. A group of people knelt down behind him and shouted to Master Chen to go slowly. At first, I felt quite uncomfortable, but now, well, I'm not used to it. So I ran very fast. Are you back? When they arrived at the big house in the city, all the father and uncles were there. Now the world is unstable, and no matter what Chen Jing does, all the cultivators will go together. They would rather be wiped out than lose points. I'm back. Chen Jing slightly stimulated his spiritual power, and the strong breath was released and then retracted. Then he said, it's almost there. The 6th spiritual orifice is just around the corner. This method can really work. Chen Jing was still very surprised. Everything in the world has spiritual power, but how to collect and use spiritual power has always been a secret of various sects. Some spiritual powers are difficult to discover and collect, such as the innate key of plants and trees. Some spiritual powers are related to people's thoughts and emotions, which are very magical. Chen Jing just went outside to distribute porridge. The spiritual power he collected is called merit and wish power, which is more difficult to form. Its components are the gratitude and satisfaction of others, and one's own kindness and good thoughts. When the two are combined, there will be a trace of merit and wish power. Merit and willpower is also a kind of spiritual power. After he cultivated Yuhilinkyo and Kinglinglinkyeo, he fell into an embarrassing situation where there was no spiritual power to collect. He didn't want to practice the slow speed, but only wanted to practice the one that could be quickly brushed up. It happened that the coalition forces failed and turned to a defensive posture. A large number of disaster victims with nowhere to go gathered in the outer city. Chen Jing immediately thought of the merit and willpower in the Buddhist and Shinto systems recorded in the practice points left by Hua Kingsha. She specifically mentioned that some special people can naturally absorb merit and willpower without the collection method of Buddhism and Shinto, and suggested that he try it. Then give it a try. Chen Jing didn't expect that he really had a physique that didn't need the collection method. In the past, the ability to naturally collect attribute spiritual power was called spiritual roots, and the ability to naturally collect mind spiritual power was called wisdom roots. Moreover, not only was it collected smoothly, but it was also easier than recorded. The records say that this meritorious wish practice is long-term, and one must be patient, and because of the spiritual power attribute, one must not easily be greedy, angry, or ignorant, otherwise all previous efforts will be wasted. I didn't feel the above at all, it was just quacking fast. Oh no, I didn't apply for the wrong major, did I? I shouldn't practice immortality, I should become a Buddha? In fact, as long as I can become a big boss, it doesn't matter whether I practice immortality or not. With my outstanding appearance, even if I don't have hair, I'm still a handsome guy. But the problem is that there is no Buddhist or Taoist sect nearby for further study. Then I can only continue on the road of cultivating immortals. Chen Jing said, Dad, is there much food at home? Of course there is a lot. This year's third crop of spiritual rice. Other families have almost no harvest, but ours is still growing well, even though we didn't take care of it. Chen Jing was amazed. On the surface, Miajin Piuan rice is no different from ordinary Piuan rice. The real difference in appearance is in the roots. As long as you pull it up by the roots, you can find that the rhizomes of this hybrid rice are incredibly strong. Other families have nothing to show for it. Chen Jing noticed this and pondered over it. The data is a bit poor. Please read it. Chapter 29. Secret Fight. The Chen family has quite a lot of surplus food. We can't even afford to eat. The second son of the Chen family, Chen Jing, even mixed spiritual rice into the porridge he gave to the victims. I've seen from afar that the Chen family's spiritual fields don't seem to be affected at all. The rice is growing well. How could it be? Could it be that the spiritual rain only fell on our family and not on King Niu Mountain? Or are the Chen family members not eating or drinking and are working in the fields all day to maintain the spiritual fields? Even if the Chen family members are maintaining the spiritual fields all the time, they still can't take care of them all. Don't forget, our families were recruited into the coalition forces a few days ago, whose spiritual fields weren't abandoned. During the coalition forces, the Chen family suffered less damage. The Chen family members had a storage bag in their hands, which was full of spiritual talismans and magic tools, and each of them had made progress in their cultivation. Oh, there's still progress at such an old age. Where do the Chen family's elixirs come from? In the outer city of the prefecture, on the shore of Wubol Lake, there stands a 3-story tea house with a plaque inscribed on it, "Climb the Gao Lao." In the elegant seats of Dengao Tea House, a group of monks were drinking and having fun. As they talked about the Chen family. Although the Chen family deliberately kept a low profile, everyone was talking to each other and noticed something strange. There is a saying that poverty will be revealed from the whole body. We are all poor, so how can we not understand what poor people look like? The Chen family felt that they were not showing off their wealth, but unless they did nothing, the aura of rich people that was out of place would be emitted as soon as they moved. Everyone suddenly realized that there was a traitor among us. Could it be that some treasure was dug up on King Niu Mountain? Someone chuckled and picked up the wine to drink, but he did not forget to look at the expressions of others from the corner of his eyes. Hearing this, everyone's face changed slightly. Some nodded slowly, and some looked jealous. At this time, the man in brown shirt sitting in the corner said, "Brother Jing, your family and the Chen family, one is on the mountain and the other is at the foot of the mountain. What do you say? What do you say? I'm at the foot of the mountain and can't see the top of the mountain." The Jing family shook their heads. At this time, someone else said, "Hey, brother Yang, your family is in trouble right now. Why don't you go ask the Chen family? Maybe the Chen family still has spare capacity and will be willing to help." The man surnamed Yang's face darkened and he said, "If you want to test it, go test it yourself. Why are you instigating me, Yang?" As soon as this was said, everyone was immediately annoyed. It was another boring drinking. The man surnamed Yang did not give face to the people present. After drinking a few bowls, he called the waiter, slapped the silver on the table and strode away. Walking outside, the autumn wind blew, and the originally warm body suddenly felt a little cold. That guy is not wrong. My Yang family's old man is seriously injured, and his children and grandchildren are not up to the task. When the old man is gone, how can we keep the family business? The Chen family? It is also a good idea. Thinking of this, Yang Crossing hurriedly washed his face by the lake, rinsed his mouth, and dispersed the smell of alcohol, and went straight to the Chen mansion. He looked around the door and saw that no one was paying attention, so he quickly went over and knocked on the door and was immediately taken in by the servant. "Master Chen." Yang Crossing saw Chen Jing and immediately strode forward with a sincere expression. "The Chen family is in great trouble." The polite smile on Chen Jing's face froze immediately and he said unhappily, "Yang Crossing, are you drunk and entered the wrong door?" "Yes, it is your Chen family. I ask you, your Chen family has had many adventures recently and is very wealthy, is that true?" "Nonsense. Brother Chen, I kindly reminded you, but you fooled me." Yang Crossing still had that sincere expression and said seriously, "You don't know, I was drinking in the ascending tower, and it happened that Jing Yu from the Jing family, Wan Ruxiang from the Wan family and others were also there." He exaggerated the conversation in the ascending tower. Then he patted his chest to express that I, Yang, will not be in the same nest with rats. Then he clasped his fists, left a sentence, and said that, since I have been informed, I will say goodbye, and left without looking back. Chen Jing was stunned and tried to persuade him to stay, but he was determined to leave. He also had something on his mind, so he didn't force him to stay. If it really does attract attention, I think we gave away some secrets during the coalition forces, and now we insist on mixing spiritual rice into the porridge to let people see that my Chen family is not in a difficult situation. But what can we do then? The family is rich, but we have to watch our clansmen die on the battlefield? Or is it delaying Chen Jing's cultivation in his golden age? Then wouldn't the wealth be wasted? Yang Crossing is right. Although they are a group of rats, they may turn into jackals when they gather together. We must be on guard. Chen Jing immediately thought about Yang Crossing's purpose. In fact, it is not difficult to guess that, although the city is big, the families rooted here are very familiar with each other. The Yang family was originally a small Karami, not worth mentioning, but the Yang family at that time was also daring to gamble, and they used all their resources to help one person practice, which actually allowed him to break through the Zuanayan, making the Yang family one of the strongest families. But unfortunately, since the 4 generations after Old Master Yang, there are only a few people worth looking at. They are all poor cultivators who can be stuck in the soul condensation realm for 10 years. Their talents are really touching. The average soul condensation period of the Chen family is about 6 or 7 years, which seems to be only 3 or 4 years faster than that of the Yang family, but you have to know that everyone is spending the same resources. The cost of raising 2 useless cultivators is enough to raise 3 normal cultivators, which is directly short of 1 person. And the value that a cultivator can create is different. In short, the predicament of the Yang family is the same as that of the Song family before. Both are talents withering, but the Song family is due to an accident, and the Yang family is an old non-African who overdraws his luck. After the death of the old master of the Song family, the good fields and land on the Huki mountain have changed their surnames. The Yang family does not want to follow in that footsteps. After Chen Jing figured it out, he thought about the pros and cons. The Yang family is a vassal of the Yang family. Although they are also spiritual plant husbands, they do not grow food and precious medicine, but purple sand, bamboo and other materials for talisman paper. The growth environment is completely different from the spiritual field and precious medicine, and there is not much conflict of interest with the Chen family. In addition, the Yang family is a rare family that is proficient in combat methods. The 10 forms of controlling the wind also made a little reputation in the past. Chen Jing took a fancy to this secret method of practicing, and the things behind it. The Yang family has been ventilating the spiritual orifice from generation to generation. I remember that the condensation speed is very fast. His son has been looking for spiritual power suitable for condensing the 7th orifice. The Chen family is not without it, but the problem is that the means of collecting spiritual power inherited by the Chen family is too inefficient, so slow that it takes years. After Chen Jing learned a little, he shook his head and said that he would take it away and not practice it. During this period, Chen Jing has actually been paying attention to things in this area. It just so happens that the Yang family's wind spiritual orifice is famous for being fast. So how can I get the Yang family's method of condensing the spiritual orifice? Thinking of this, Chen Jing immediately returned to the backyard and found his wife Liu, who was playing with the cat, and turned on the external brain. After listening to her husband's retelling, Mrs. Liu pondered for a moment. The Yang family is now in danger. It would have been fine in the past, but the world is in chaos now. Once Old Master Yang can't hold on, the Yang family may be wiped out by the robbery repair. In this situation, Yang Crossing should be very anxious, but he still left in a hurry and didn't even tell you in detail, because compared with the Yang family, our Chen family may be more dangerous, so Yang Crossing thinks that we are anxious. Think about it, what does our Chen family have, and what does the Yang family have? Chen Jing said without hesitation, the Chen family has money, and the Yang family has Old Master Yang with the Zuanayan combat power. Yes. Liu smiled and said, Yang Crossing is waiting for us to ask him for help. Maybe he is already calculating at this moment and wants to ask us how much food we need. I said he is so kind that he doesn't join forces with those jackals, tigers, and leopards, but comes to report the news. It turns out that he wants to take the lion's share for himself, but even if he takes our food, can his Yang family keep it? There must always be more hope. What if, by some chance, we can bet on a second Old Master Yang? After all, they are all suffering, so it is good to have a chance to fight. Who cares if he is reliable or not, as if there is really a choice. Liu continued, if you want to get the Feng Lin Kyo secret method for Jinger, you must let Yang Crossing's plan fail. Let him know that those chickens and pottery dogs can't do anything to us, and our Chen family is not in a hurry. Then, wait for him to come to us for help, and then ask for the secret method. Ha 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 ha, what madam said is very true. It makes me suddenly enlightened. Chen Jing suddenly understood, and for a moment, he felt that he was terribly smart. Chapter 30, The Fall of the Noble Family. Master Chen, take care. A group of people bowed down to each other and watched Chen Jing pack up and leave. A man who had just escaped licked the bottom of his bowl, looked around, and said, "Is Master Chen really so kind that he gives us food and medical treatment for free?" Of course, Master Chen is kind and has pity on us poor people. The old man next to him said with great gratitude, "I'm from Wangshan town. The monks in the town have never had such a good life. Before the tree man came out, there were some mountain gangs. They kept saying they gave us food and meat, but they were actually monks in disguise and killed many people." The man didn't care, and his tone was a little sarcastic. "I don't know what this little Master Chen is up to behind the scenes." Bang! The old man threw his bowl to the ground, pointed at the man and cursed, "You eat the rice porridge given by Master Chen, and then gossip about me behind my back. You bastard, I'm ashamed to stand with you. Get out of here." The movement here immediately attracted the attention of the people around. They gathered together. Although the old man was old, he was full of energy when he cursed people. Soon everyone understood and cursed at the man together. "If Master Chen hadn't repeatedly warned us not to fight privately, I would have beaten you until you pissed and shit all over. You bitch. You ungrateful bastard." Bah. The man was extremely shocked by the crowd's curses, and it seemed that something was squirming under his skin, but to his surprise, no one really took action despite the harsh words. He sneered and threw the bowl. Okay, I'll leave, you fools, wait and see." Then, he left the place in a very embarrassed manner amid the boos and curses of the crowd. The man walked dozens of miles outside the city and arrived directly at Jiachang Mountain. His steps were fast, and it was obvious that he was not an ordinary person. Jiachang Mountain. In the outer area of Zuanjing, a towering tree slowly bent down, and countless birds perched on the branches and leaves flapped their wings. In the middle of the trunk, a huge eye suddenly opened, looked directly at the man, and asked, "I asked you to go to the city. Why did you come back? I didn't do my job well. I thought the masters of the city would definitely not care about the life and death of the outer city. Now the outer city must be in chaos, but I didn't expect that there was a master named Chen who had been distributing porridge to help the disaster relief and mixed it with spiritual rice. I complained and was beaten and scolded." The man bowed his head deeply. The face of the man on the giant tree showed anger. "He alone can save hundreds of thousands of disaster victims. Sir, Anning Prefecture has been peaceful for a long time. Although every family has a small surplus of food, every family has surplus food. Now it has been less than half a year since the disaster, and so many people have died. It is not difficult for the city to save the victims." The man couldn't help but analyze it. In fact, ordinary families will still be short of food. After all, the ability of small peasant economy to resist disasters is no different from that of no peasant economy. Once farmers lose their land and their harvest, it will be much worse than the unemployment of workers. But the Chen family, a family of immortal cultivation, has no shortage of food. Why? Because the family of immortal cultivation is equivalent to the Qingnang sect in the eyes of ordinary people. There are few cultivators in small families, and many who do not practice. Those ordinary children who have separated from the family will engage in ordinary business, become small landlords, exploit ordinary people, and their granaries will be full. Therefore, Chen Jing was ruthless in distributing porridge. He took it from the people and used it for the people and added some spiritual rice as interest. How could I not know that there is food in the city? The man on the giant tree had a resentful face. Those masters would rather let us starve to death than give us more food. Even if they give us porridge and food, they are just pretending. The victims are just hanging on to their lives. How can they really support you and even beat and scold you out? I'm also confused, so I will report to you. The man hesitated, and the man and the tree were silent for a long time, obviously unable to figure out the reason behind it. What should we do next? Humph, it's just a little Master Chen. It's useless to the overall situation. You go back, don't go to where that person is, continue to do what you should do. Yes. One of the noble families in the inner city, the Mi family. The Mi family is the only noble family that does not live in the inner city, and it is also the bottom one among the 4 noble families. Compared with key manufacturing technologies such as elixirs, instruments, and talismans, The Mi family's domesticated spirit beasts are also key technologies, but they are not that critical. There is a saying that goes well. A fortune is not worth having fur. If it weren't for the fact that the tamed spirit beasts couldn't be made without a certain scale, and if it weren't for the fact that no one could rival them in the niche track, the Mi family probably wouldn't be ranked among the wealthy families. Of course, since it's ranked among the wealthy families, no matter how bad it is, it's an existence that small families can only look up to. Alas, our vassal family has suffered heavy losses, and we can't even supply the feed for the spirit beasts. Look at this spirit beast, it's lost weight. The head of the Mi family personally inspected the animal pen, worried. This spirit beast is full of treasures. Its skin, flesh, bones, and blood can either be made into spiritual food, or used to make talismans, refine tools, and make pills. Everything is top quality material and food. The prosperity of the Mi family depends entirely on this tamed spirit beast. Boom! Suddenly, the earth shook. In the dark night, under the moonlight, the huge mutant tree man slowly approached. Well, you dare to come to my Mi family's territory on your own initiative. Let you monsters know that my Mi family is not only good at taming spirit beasts. The head of the Mi family soared into the air, and the majestic spirit power swayed his sleeves, ready to launch a shocking attack. At this moment, the spirit beast lying in the animal pen had abnormal behavior, and blood-colored roots suddenly broke through the membrane and rushed straight into the sky. Swish! The head of the Mi family, who was about to show his skills, turned into a ball of blood mist in the sky. All the Mi family members who were waiting for the battle were stunned. Head of the family. Head of the family. Unfortunately, the horror was not over yet. One after another spirit beasts in the animal pen, their flesh and blood squirmed and changed, turning into half flesh and blood and half plants. A large number of Mi family members never thought that the spirit beasts they had carefully tamed would become the gods of death at this time, and they were caught off guard and died in large numbers. Beast. The angry shouts of grief and anger rang out, and the old generation of strong men who were in seclusion in the clan appeared one after another. Seeing the dead and wounded disciples, the mutated spirit beasts, and the head of the family whose body was torn into pieces, their eyes suddenly turned red. The huge Mi family, a powerful family that stood firm, withered in an instant. They attacked the mutated spirit beasts angrily, but what frightened the remaining Mi family monks was that these mutated spirit beasts were so powerful that they were far from being comparable to those spirit beasts transformed from mortals. In the distance, a grim smile appeared on the face of the giant tree man, and the branches and leaves trembled with excitement. The spores of Lord Xianguan have long been planted in your spirit beasts. The Mi family is the first powerful family to be destroyed. Chapter 31 Teacher Chen starts class. When a person dares to stare at you, as long as the conditions allow, he will never mind scolding you. If the conditions are more suitable, it would be better to fight. If there are sufficient reasons and profits, killing is inevitable. Human kindness requires a stable environment to guide it all year round, sufficient materials to fill daily necessities, and rich culture to enrich the spirit. And human malice only needs an imbalance to slide into the abyss. Chen Jing is not a person who is good at reading minds, but he knows himself. Putting himself in the position of the other party, and then looking at where his bottom line is, he knows what the other party's bottom line is. If I live a miserable life, and then see someone who lives better than me in front of me, what will I do? Mountain path. The yellowed autumn leaves and the flying catkin like erosion rain are mixed and dance in the wind. The young man stood in the empty autumn wind, with his hands behind his back, pondering. The long black hair blown by the wind and the loose sleeves fluttered in the wind, but his figure did not move at all. His eyes were calm, and he quietly thought about the answer. A few hundred meters away from the young man, several shadowy figures followed him quietly. Gradually, the outline of a human figure slowly emerged. It's rare that our young master Chen has found a perfect heart and didn't go back to the city, but is here alone to feel sad and depressed. Finally, we have caught the opportunity. The masked monk who emerged laughed. They have been following the Chen family for a long time, but the direct descendants of the Chen family have always been working in groups, and they can't find the opportunity to attack. Fortunately, hard work pays off. Today, Chen Jing, the second son of the Chen family, went crazy for some reason. After giving out porridge, He walked out of the city alone. He walked farther and farther and came to this deserted wasteland. How could they let go of such a godsend opportunity? One person went to report the news, and the others followed immediately. Then, the reporter brought 5 more people, and now there were 8 people in total, all of whom were Tankyo period monks, with talismans and magic tools, surrounding Chen Jing. Don't interrupt my thinking, this is crucial. Chen Jing looked over and said lightly, still facing them sideways, talking to himself, my father taught me that, if you suffer injustice, don't endure it, complain, get angry, and hate, otherwise living is like a rotten dead tree. I deeply agree with this, do you agree? Is this kid really not afraid, or is he just pretending? The masked man was fooled. Don't pay attention to him, he's just playing tricks. We need to find out what treasure the Chen family got. Another masked man shouted in a low voice. Chen Jing saw that no one answered his question, so he could only continue. You disappoint me. I always thought that this resentment, anger, and hatred should be directed at those who caused injustice, but you only attack the weaker ones, and you are also the injustice in the eyes of the weaker ones. Chen Jing, stop pretending to be crazy and stupid. If you don't say it, today will be your death anniversary next year. A black-skinned man shouted. The veins on Chen Jing's forehead throbbed. He took a deep breath, straightened his chest, and raised his head, trying to keep his voice calm and stable. I could have been numb, but I didn't want to. I could have swung my sword at the weaker ones, but I didn't want to. I know how evil people can be, but I know even more that my conscience and bottom line are hard-earned. Go. Teach this kid a lesson. Everyone got impatient and attacked directly. Boom. A spike exploded under Chen Jing's feet, and then, Chen Jing in everyone's eyes shattered like a mirror, exploding into a ball of white mist that quickly dispersed, covering everyone together. Cloud and smoke illusion technique. Oh no, it's an illusion. The kid's real body is not there. Get out. At this time, a voice with suppressed anger rang out. Did you fucking listen to me? Puff. The sharp sword light came like a meteor. The masked man who jumped out first was just turning around and retreating, and then the flying sword broke through the air and attacked, easily piercing his chest, turning 300 times in an instant, and mincing him into pieces of meat. Chen Jing's low angry voice was still whispering. Do you know how precious my thoughts are in this era? Puff, puff. The 2 tracking ambushers didn't see anything clearly, and the cold light in the mist became the last light they saw in their lives. A monk next to him was so angry that his heart and liver were broken, and he shouted heartbreakingly, "Save me, Dad, save me." Whoosh. The head of fear flew up in an instant. Chen Jing stood on the back of the tall phantom turtle, looking down at the monks, shrouded in mist below, and killed 4 of the 8 monks in a lightning-fast killing. The remaining 4 monks successfully escaped from the maze created by the cloud and smoke illusion technique. Run, run. Even though they still had an absolute advantage in numbers, but they had no intention of continuing to cause trouble for Chen Jing. They fled towards the capital city at the fastest speed in their lives. Chen Jing snorted, stretched out his hand, and made a fake move. The stream of light flew back in the mist, and the flying sword swam happily at his fingertips like a fish. He stretched out his hand and pointed. Go. The starlight disappeared from his fingertips, drawing a gorgeous trajectory, and then a monk's head exploded on the spot. Among the 3 remaining monks, the slowest monk knelt down immediately and shouted, "I surrender, I surrender." Oh. The voice suddenly sounded from his ears. Chen Jing, who was standing on the back of the phantom turtle in the distance, slowly disappeared, and another Chen Jing appeared beside him. The monk was horrified. The second Chen Jing who appeared was also an illusion. Chen Jing looked at his horrified appearance and said, "Surrender? Then let me test you. What should you do if you are treated unfairly?" "I was wrong. I was wrong. I will explain to you. I was forced to do it." 0 points. The sword flashed. The elusive flying sword pierced his heart, leaving only the kneeling corpse falling forward. "Ah. I will fight you." The second to last monk didn't think he could escape, so he turned around and activated all the talismans, magic tools, and all kinds of spells covered Chen Jing. But to his despair, Chen Jing was once again shattered like a bubble. It was still an illusion. Dead. Ha ha ha. I killed Chen Jing. He was full of disbelief, but suddenly laughed out loud. Unfortunately, the next second, he covered his transparent neck, spun in place, and lay on the ground. The last surviving black-faced monk's legs became weak and fell to the ground. His spiritual consciousness has been shrouded behind him, and he can see clearly what happened next. What a fast flying sword, so fast that it is unbelievable and unpredictable. Illusions can't tell at all. Ruthless, ruthless, how did we provoke such a ruthless person? And you still talk about conscience and bottom line. The black-faced monk knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face with fear, and he was obviously honest. The giant phantom turtle poked its head over, and Chen Jing sat on it, asking, "Why don't you run away? I beg for surrender. Answer a question, what should I do if I'm treated unfairly?" Chen Jing looked unkind. Whoever treats me unfairly, I will fight back, and every wrong has its perpetrator." The black-faced monk shuddered, trying to make an expression that said, "I'm serious, and you believe me. Next question, do you think it's easier or harder to be a good person or a bad person?" Of course it's harder to be a good person. It's too hard to be a good person. It's too hard for a good person to stick to the bottom line. The black-faced man suddenly remembered everything Chen Jing said before and answered it exactly. Hiss. Chen Jing leaned back slightly and a smile appeared on his face. "I'll ask you one last question. Do you want to be a good person?" "Yes." The black-faced man burst into tears and shouted heartbreakingly, "I didn't stick to the bottom line before. Now I just want to be a good person honestly." "No, you don't want to be a good person. You just don't want to be a dead person." Puff. The dark-faced man looked at his heart in disbelief, and then he became a dead man. Get out of class dismissed. Chapter 32 Plan. What? The plan succeeded? Outer city of the city. Chen Mansion. The ambush is ready. Next, we need to show them a flaw. Chen Jing discussed with the elders of the clan how to counter the ambush. Ever since Yang Crossing reported to him last time that the neighbors were ready to attack the Chen family, Chen Jing has been planning to counter the ambush in order to eliminate the threat and get the Feng Lin Qiao secret method from the Yang family. Now everything is ready. It's time to find an opportunity to fight a good battle and deter these tigers, leopards, jackals, and wolves. Just then, suddenly, the servant came to report that Yang Crossing wanted to see him. "Oh, Yang Crossing is not here at the right time. Go and tell them that the Chen family will not see guests today." After Chen Jing instructed the servants, he turned around and said to everyone, "This Yang Crossing is really impatient. He is so impatient that he wants to bite a piece of meat off my family." Everyone in the Chen family was angry. Everyone thought that the Chen family was easy to bully. It was really unreasonable. Let's fight off the people from the other families so that Yang Crossing will know that if the Yang family didn't have an old man, the gap between them and our Chen family would be like heaven and earth. If the Yang family is willing to help us in times of need, we may be able to form an alliance in the future. I don't like it if they are waiting for a price now. The Chen family expressed their dissatisfaction one after another. At this time, the servant came again to pass on the message, saying, "Master, Yang Crossing refused to leave and insisted on coming to see you and brought a gift." "Oh, open it." Chen Jing was puzzled, not knowing what Yang Crossing had suddenly done. When he saw the gift clearly, he couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. What lay in the gift box was actually a very exquisite flying sword. Flying swords, elixirs, spells, etc. all have different grades. If the 9 grade official positions of the former divine dynasty were reversed, the first grade would be the lowest, corresponding to the soul, and the second grade would correspond to the orifice. Flying swords, such as magic tools, are at least second grade. The flying sword that Chen Jing bought for Chen Jing is a second grade flying sword. At this time, the flying sword in the gift box was red all over, like a piece of exquisite crystal, emitting a powerful spiritual energy fluctuation. Third grade. Third grade flying sword? Gift? Huh. Chen Jing couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This kind of thing must not be accepted like this. He immediately ordered the servant to invite Yang Crossing in. Before Yang Xingren entered the house, he shouted enthusiastically, Brother Chen has a strategic mind and is as steady as Mount Tay. Your son is very capable and talented. I admire him. Chen Jing didn't understand, but it didn't affect his expression. He said lightly, "Brother Yang, you are joking. There are few people in my Chen family. We don't deserve such praise. And this gift, I can't accept it without reason. Brother Chen is really good at nourishing his ki. No wonder Brother Chen didn't care when I went to the door to alarm last time. Now it seems that I was really worrying too much. Your son is alone outside, fighting 8 people, and he killed all those rats without leaving a single piece of armor. Such a proud son of heaven really makes me extremely envious." "What? What is fighting 8 people? When did I have an illegitimate child outside and didn't bring him back?" Chen Jing became more and more confused as he listened. He could only drink tea to cover up his confusion. He didn't dare to say anything and kept smiling. Seeing Chen Jing's modest and calm appearance, Yang Crossing felt even more upset. His own calculations failed, but the pain of being stung by others' excellence was the real hurt. If the Yang family had such a genius son, they would have to speak more harshly, but looking at Chen Jing, he looked so calm, as if he didn't care at all. Sure enough, his parents were somewhat extraordinary to be able to raise such a child. "Brother Chen, I won't be polite with you. Do you think this flying sword is a perfect match for your second son?" "Well, what do you mean? My Yang family has a daughter who is exactly 18 this year. If Brother Chen is willing to become a relative of my family, this flying sword will be used as a dowry. Jinga's marriage, let's not talk about it for the time being." Chen Jing refused directly. His son was going to be trained and sent to the Qingnang sect. Although the Qingnang sect seemed to have problems at present, he had to make sure that there was really no hope. Once it was confirmed that he could enter the Qingnang sect, the asking price could be even higher. Yang Crossing shook his head repeatedly. "How can my daughter be worthy of Master Jing? How about the eldest son? The eldest son will be the head of the family in the future. Our Chen family's ancestral precept is to only marry ordinary women." Chen Jing shook his head. "There are 2 advantages to marrying an ordinary woman. One is that you don't have to worry about getting into trouble with other families. More importantly, the probability of monks having children with each other is a bit low. Although the children born will have better cultivation talents, it is still not conducive to family inheritance. Moreover, giving the dowry to the second son and marrying the eldest son, what kind of logic is this? As soon as you hear it, you know that it is not a serious social gathering, but just an opening statement. In this case, why not settle for the second best?" Sure enough, Yang Crossing changed the topic and said, "In this case, my family will use this red glass sword to exchange for a batch of cultivation resources and a favor from the Chen family." "What do you mean?" Chen Jing showed an interested look. "Just." Chen Jing was at the door, pinching his clothes and sniffing them left and right to confirm that there was no smell. Then he nodded with satisfaction and pushed the door to go home. The house was very quiet. He walked lightly and went back to the house, but was stopped when he passed the front hall. "Come here," Chen Jing said in a deep voice. "Dad, you got into trouble outside again." "Ah, did something happen outside?" Chen Jing tried to quibble, but soon, his face became serious and his tone changed. "Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I've been going out to do good things every day recently, but I was targeted by a group of people with bad intentions. I tried to persuade them with my heart and tried to make them realize their mistakes and change their ways. But this group of people interrupted me. No, what I just said was that they are stubborn and they are hopeless." At this point, Chen Jing sighed. He said helplessly, "They forced me to do it." "You beat 8 people by yourself?" "Dad, it was 8 people beating me. I'm the victim." Chen Jing leaned back slightly. "I can see that my son has special skills. He can always get rid of all the people who bully you and hurt you, right?" "Dad, I accept the punishment. I really won't go out this time." "Well," Chen Jing waved his hand, "you are much more capable than your father. Your father is old, but he has never shed blood on his hands at the age of 18. But you are different. Your father only hopes that you can think twice before doing things in the future and don't act rashly alone. The Chen family can still help you now." "Dad, okay, you have got a lot of benefits this time by accident. Go back to the room and see the new gift I prepared for you." Chen Jing waved his hand and sent his son away. Chapter 33. Scattered spiritual acupoints rely on derivation. Chen Jing returned to the room and saw 2 brocade boxes placed on the bedside. The brocade box on the left was made of precious jade and wrapped in fine fabrics and silk. When he opened the lid of the box, a beam of red light rose up, standing in the air, spinning. Its whole body was like jade, and the red light was like clouds, crystal clear. It was the 3rd grade flying sword, the chili sword. When he saw this flying sword for the first time, Chen Jing felt what it meant to fall in love at first sight, and his eyes were wide open, full of surprise. 3rd grade flying sword? He couldn't wait to use the control technique, and his spiritual power carefully wrapped the spiritual chili sword, leaving a mark on his spiritual consciousness. The chili sword moved as he wished, leaving a red glow in the air. The power of the 3rd grade flying sword is completely incomparable to the 2nd grade flying sword. Chen Jing felt that, if he had this flying sword in his hand, even if he didn't know the Daozuan crossing yin technique, he could break the stone giant left by Hua Qingsha by brute force. With the help of Daozuan crossing Yinshu, the power is so strong that no one dares to imagine it. In addition, the 3rd grade flying sword also has its own magic. Where did Dad get the 3rd grade flying sword? I remember that this thing is not available for direct sale in the inner city. Either you ask the Lei family to make it custom made, or you ask the Merchant Alliance to pre-order it. Chen Jing didn't know how he got it, but it didn't matter. He just felt that he was terribly strong now. Of course, the red glass sword has many advantages, but also has disadvantages, that is, Tile and Marumari. Ugh. The disadvantages, that it is not portable enough. Flying swords are made of a variety of materials, most of which are made of metal. There is no hilt, but only a sword body, about the size of a palm, with a thin and sharp blade. When not in use, it is curled into a ball, so the flying sword is also called a sword ball. But the red glass sword is made of material similar to jade, and it is obviously impossible to roll it up and hide it in the sleeve, so it can only be placed in the storage bag. There is another one. Chen Jing put away the red glass sword and opened the 2nd brocade box. In the brocade box, a transparent white jade tube was lying quietly inside. He rolled up his sleeves and took out the jade tube. When his spiritual consciousness probed into it, a secret method called wind breathing technique appeared in his mind. This secret method explains in detail how to collect the spiritual power contained in the wind. As long as there is wind spiritual power will be generated. When collecting, you need to find the place where the wind rises, also known as identifying the eye of the wind. After finding the wind spiritual power, you can start collecting it. The method here is to feel the frequency fluctuations of the wind spiritual power. If you are consistent with it, you can also become the eye of the wind, and the wind spiritual power will be generated by yourself, also known as with the wind. Taking advantage of the state of with the wind breathing to practice is equivalent to constantly taking elixirs and taking advantage of God for free. Practitioners can really drink the northwest wind. Chen Jing realized and was shocked. The old father's assist came at the right time. It may be because he saw that he always went out for passive defense, so he gave him a 3rd level flying sword for self-defense. Then he kept thinking about his practice and got the wind breathing technique. With the wind breathing technique, the 7th and 8th spiritual orifices, which are the last 2 of the 5 internal organs, are no longer a problem. Chen Jing immediately found his father and wanted to return to King Niu Mountain. The family immediately set off and left the city. Coincidentally, not long after they left, the news of the destruction of the wealthy Mi family spread. On the top of King Niu Mountain, a century-old black pine tree stood tall and majestic, with dark green needle-shaped leaves spreading along the branches, like a wide round umbrella, blocking the sunlight. Chen Jing sat cross-legged under the tree, and the ends of his hair slowly floated up. In his eyes, a familiar and unfamiliar type of spiritual power was now marked with a category. Wind spiritual power. Born with the wind, and stopped with the wind. The cultivator explored all things in the world, and understood this new world with superhuman senses that ordinary people could not. Some people have discovered the wonderful uses of moonlight, and some have discovered the existence of merit. Wind spiritual power, also one of the myriad spiritual powers, has now unveiled its mysterious veil. Wind is coming. Chen Jing shouted softly. He didn't know where the eye of the wind was, nor did he need to look for where the wind was coming from. I don't go looking for the wind will find me. Alarula. Behind Chen Jing, all the uncles and elders of the Chen family carried huge wooden fans and shook the pedals frantically. Simple wind power utilization facilities such as windmills have been popularized a long time ago. The power of science is still being output. Frequency, rhythm, the fire of the nine heavens, descending and resting. Chen Jing tried to comprehend. Then, his eyelids gradually fought, and he felt drowsy. No. What an abstract thing. Could the wind in this world of immortal cultivation completely escape physical phenomena? He tried to recall, and some words that had settled in the depths of his soul slowly emerged. The sun shines on the surface of the earth, raising the surface temperature, and the air on the surface expands due to the heat, becoming lighter and rising. After the hot air rises, the low temperature cold air flows in horizontally. The rising air gradually cools, and becomes heavier and falls. The high surface temperature heats the air, and makes it rise. This airflow is wind. Wind is related to water. Wind is generated by the expansion and contraction of water and water vapor. Wind blows from the sea to the land, or from the land to the sea. Movement, non-stop movement, is the core of wind. This is the eye of the wind. The secret method of breathing with the wind is combined with the eye of the wind to generate spiritual power. The flow of air, the alternation between hot and cold, and the conversion between water vapor are all clear in his mind. He seemed to have turned into a spiritual orifice, but not the spiritual orifice in the human body, but the spiritual orifice of the existence of heaven and earth. A node. Stop. Chen Jing waved his hand. Everyone stopped turning the windmill pedals, and then a breeze came, and the direction of the wind was exactly where Chen Jing was. At this time, Chen Jing had no wind within 3 steps of himself, and outside 3 steps, the airflow spread outward like a vortex. My son has done it. The 5 internal organs are all smooth and unobstructed. Chen Jing smiled with relief. Dad. The eldest brother Chen Gu looked at his old father, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Am I really your biological son? Why is brother Jing's talent so different from mine?" Stinky boy. Chen Jing frowned, and taught him a lesson. If you inherited 3/10 of your father's talent like your second brother, you wouldn't still have 3 orifices. Dad, you only have 7 orifices. Huh. Just as Chen Gu was sweating under his father's dangerous gaze, his younger sister stepped out to help him. Dad, why are the 5 internal organs smooth and unobstructed? Don't you want to find the 5th spiritual orifice of the 5 internal organs? Facing his little cotton jacket, Chen Jing immediately smiled and explained it carefully. The 9 orifices are the first 3 ancient spiritual orifices, and then the 5 internal organs spiritual orifices. The reason why the 5 internal organs are called the 5 internal organs is that they circulate and generate each other like the 5 internal organs of the human body. Under this logic, the 5th internal organ of the 5 internal organs does not need to look for the corresponding spiritual power, but is derived from the other 4 organs. Just like the 5 element of spiritual power, gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. If the earth's spiritual power is missing, gold can generate water, water can generate wood, wood can generate fire, and finally fire can generate earth, and so on. This is called the derivation method. Of course, if there are conditions to use the collection method to supplement the earth's spiritual power, then there is no need for the derivation method. 4 of your second brother's 5 internal organs are randomly matched, and we don't know what to match the remaining 1, so it is more appropriate to use the derivation method. It's just a little slower, but it can be compensated by taking more pills. Chen Jing made the final summary. The attributes of the derived spiritual orifices should be easy to guess if you often play single-player games. Chapter 34. The Chen family is finished. Hua Qingsha vaguely felt someone touching her body, which made her feel very frightened. But soon, she realized that the hand touching her was slender and small, and it should be a woman. She also wiped her body with a wet towel, which should be taking care of herself. Then, a thought emerged in her confused consciousness. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I lying here? Then, a picture flashed through her mind. If you don't come back in 3 days, I will go to the place where we first met to find you. The man said to herself calmly but firmly. Hey, who is he? He seems to be a very annoying guy. Just hearing the voice, there is a feeling of pain in the wallet. The drowsiness came again. Hua Qingsha tried to resist. She vaguely realized that she couldn't sleep anymore. She had slept for too long, and there were still many things to do, and very important news that had not been delivered. What news? No, escape. Did I escape? Once again, a picture came. The old man, who looked like an old farmer, had his back to him. He sighed in a vicissitudes of life voice, except for me, who else would love the grass and grass in this world? Fear rose in my heart. Only the word escape kept emerging. Intermittently, there were battle scenes, the light and shadow of flying swords across the sky, and I could vaguely hear the master's angry shouts. The picture faded. The seriously injured body walked to a familiar place, and finally could not support it. The light raindrops that kept falling pressed on his body, and his body temperature gradually faded. Was he going to die? But, just then, the sound of dead leaves being trampled sounded, and the familiar man came over. He first stood in the distance, and watched for a long time, and then walked around a few times. Finally, he approached me cautiously. How did it become like this? Run. I'll take you to run now. Teacher Zaya is the same as always telling others to run first. The keywords pierced through all the darkness at once. Hua Qingsha opened her eyes slightly, as if she saw the scene of herself lying on that man's back, watching him kill the tree people blocking the road one by one, and take her away. It seemed that everything was remembered. Awake. Second brother, she's awake. Oh. Footsteps hurriedly sounded. Hua Qingsha followed the sound, and saw Chen Jing walking quickly. Chen Jing suddenly stopped, then raised his head, stared at the ceiling, turned and left. She was stunned for a moment, then lowered her head, and looked at herself naked. Hua Qingsha, who finally woke up, had a black screen in front of her eyes and fainted again. Third sister, you have hurt me so much. Chen Jing carried a hoe, and escaped from life in the farmland. The lush and green new sprouts of spiritual plants in front of him could not cover up the sorrow in his heart. The key is that he reacted too quickly and didn't see it clearly. What a pity. At this time, an unusual footstep came from behind him, and it stopped quietly behind him without any sound. Xiaoman in the pocket, poked his head out to take a look, then immediately retracted it. Chen Jing looked at her and asked, "How is it?" Xiaoman spread his hands, lowered his head and sighed, indicating that he could not help. Chen Jing's face changed again and again, and he turned his head and pretended to be surprised. "Senior sister Hua, are you awake?" Hua Qingsha was still very haggard. Her face was pale and bloodless. She looked at Chen Jing dimly, saying nothing, as if she had said everything. "Master, senior sister? You call me senior sister. Did you see my message?" She suddenly said. "Yes. When I met you, you only had 2 orifices, but now you have 7 orifices. But it's not enough. I will give you another 3 months to open 9 orifices and communicate with the gods. Otherwise you are not allowed to call me senior sister." So simple. Rather than saying that this was a request to him, it would be better to say that Teacher Zaya was covering up his embarrassment. Chen Jing said, "Does Teacher Zaya have any other instructions?" "No." Hua Qingsha's eyebrows softened suddenly, and she said softly, "Don't worry, I will help you. Now tell me, what is the current situation in Ning Mansion?" "The situation is not good. Yesterday, news came that even the Mi family, one of the powerful families, was destroyed overnight." Chen Jing told all the news that had happened during this period. As he spoke, he was also frowning. Looking down, the common people were generally in mourning. Looking up, one of the 4 powerful families was destroyed. Looking in the middle, a group of families suffered heavy losses in the coalition forces, and I killed a few of them. No matter how you look at it, it feels like Ning Mansion is doomed. Does Teacher Zaya have any clues? Chen Jing asked. "Have you ever heard of Fengshan sect?" Hua Qingsha pondered for a moment, and said a very unfamiliar name. "Never. Fengshan sect is a notorious sect in the cultivation world. It acts madly and recklessly. In the name of Fengshan, it has committed countless shocking crimes in various places in Jiuzhou. Many large sects have been destroyed by Fengshan sect." At this point, Chen Jing didn't understand who Ning Mansion encountered this time. "Is it also Fengshan sect?" Yes, this eclipse rain and the Jushan Zuan Jing in Jiachang Mountain are all the work of Fengshan sect. When I went to investigate, I saw an incarnation of Fengshan sect's Xianguan. Fengshan sect's Xianguan should be more powerful than my master. Hua Qingsha said worriedly. Chen Jing, teaches our Fengshan sect is so strong, then we are doomed. The Xianguan did not directly attack Anning Mansion. In fact, there is not even an ordinary believer in Anning Mansion. Hua Qingsha shook her head and said, they always act unexpectedly. I don't know what their purpose is. I can't guess their intentions. Fengshan sect did not take action directly, so who destroyed the Mi family? Chen Jing asked in confusion. You may not know that the mutated tree people are caused by a kind of spores. The spores are now all over Anning Mansion. Chen Jing knew this, but he did not say it. Instead, he continued to listen. Although the spores can cause people to mutate, they are unlikely to have an effect on cultivators, and even on most mortals. But once the spores take effect on a cultivator, they will transform into extremely powerful mutated tree people. The Mi family was destroyed overnight, most likely because of the problems with the spirit beasts. The spirit beasts have been domesticated and have a spirit, but they have no spirituality at all and will not actively resist the parasitism of spores. Hearing this, Chen Jing had a vague sense of deja vu, and his heart skipped a few beats. Don't worry. Noticing something was wrong, Hua Qingsha comforted him. The Fengshan sect suffered a heavy blow 200 years ago, and now is the heyday of our King Nang sect. There will be no problem. Although I have not explained this in detail, you can absolutely believe it. You can also ask your father. There is no cultivator in Asusao who does not know what our King Nang sect looks like when it gets serious. Master and the others are just temporarily entangled. So our first goal now is to survive before the King Nang sect finishes dealing with the matter over there, right? Chen Jing's voice was a little bitter for some reason. Yes. Hua Qingsha nodded in affirmation. Chen Jing dropped the hoe in his hand and looked up at the sky. It's over. The Chen family is over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Crazy. At the bank of Hualien Lake, at the back of the Jing family mountain, the 30-year-old eldest brother of the Jing family, Jing Wang, sat alone in front of the grave in the darkness. He grabbed a handful of paper money and stared at the words Jing Shen on the tombstone, unable to move his eyes away for a long time. Next to the tombstone of the fifth brother Jing Shen was the tombstone of the fourth brother Jing Zuan. Jing Wang silently sprinkled the paper money into the brazier, as if he saw the voices and smiles of his former brothers in the suddenly jumping flames. Brother, we 6 brothers will definitely be able to walk out of Hualien Lake in the future and see how big the world is. Brother, we have had some adventures outside. Look at what this is. When father was not around, brother was our father. The shouts from his memories made him subconsciously reach his hand in, and then he was suddenly awakened by the burning pain, staring blankly at the gradually weakening flames, tears streaming down his cheeks. Of the 6 sons of the Jing family, only 4 are left in just 1 year. The 5th brother, Jing Shen, was killed in the Jiachang Mountains while training with the 6th brother, Jing Chan. The 4th brother, Jing Zuan, was killed by Chen Jing of the Chen family a few days ago when he ambushed him with other family members and was killed by his flying sword. But is it really so? Jing Wang's back was hunched and he didn't look like a young man at all. Footsteps sounded slowly from behind. Brother, you called me over? The man was none other than Jing Chan, the 6th son of the Jing family. He came closer and suddenly his eyes turned red. He sobbed, grabbed paper money, and put it into the brazier, saying, 4th and 5th brothers died so tragically. Brother, you must avenge them. Revenge? The eldest brother's hoarse voice rang out. You killed the 5th and 4th brothers. Hasn't your revenge been taken? Jing Chan's hand trembled suddenly and overturned the brazier. The burning paper money was reflected in his horrified eyes. He looked at the man in front of him incredulously, his throat rolling. Brother? You and the 5th brother found the spirits in Hualien Lake, used the spirits as bait, and ambushed and killed the experienced casual cultivators in Jiachang Mountain. The 5th brother never thought that you would kill him as well. A few days ago, the major families attacked the Chen family together. Originally, the fourth brother should not have been among the people who dealt with Chen Jing that day, but the fourth brother also died in that battle. The fourth brother could not have thought that his sixth brother would actually push himself into the fire pit. Jing Wang slowly stood up, his voice suppressing the pain, and walked over on burning paper money, like a ghost demanding his life. The flying sword suddenly stopped at Jing Chan's brow. His eyes were red, and he gritted his teeth and growled, "Jing Chan, tell me, what is the grudge between you and your fifth and fourth brothers? What is the grudge? You have to kill each other and burn your flesh and blood. Oh, then do it." Jing Chan took a step back, and then his eyes became sharp. Not only was he not afraid, but he faced the sharpness of the flying sword and looked directly at Jing Wang. "I just don't want to die. I don't want to die as miserably and ridiculously as my mother. Do you really not know me, Jing Chan? You five and I are not born of the same mother. My mother is not Wang, but a maid, a ridiculous maid who died at the hands of my father." Ding. The flying sword fell. Jing Wang opened his eyes wide. "You, how did you? Why ask again? I killed my fourth and fifth brothers. I thought it was perfect. You can find out. If that's the case, is it difficult for me to know what happened back then?" Jing Chan sneered sarcastically. "Back then?" Jing Wang was lost, closed his eyes in pain, and said, "It was my eldest brother's fault. I couldn't stop father. He wanted to explain, but felt powerless. "Brother, you don't have to explain. I understand." Jing Chan's voice was calm, and under the face of the young man, there was a thoroughness that was not in line with his age. If the family wants to be passed down for a long time, it is inevitable to set rules. Everything must be clearly divided. What should be taken, and what should be seen. The hierarchy is strict and the rules are as hard as iron. The mistake is that I was born. When I was born with a natural vision and a natural saint, but according to the rules of the family, I should be a slave. Only the direct line can practice, but I'm born a saint, so how can I not want it? But if my mother is made the legitimate, the direct line of the Jing family will sooner or later lose power, and there will be endless hidden dangers. In this case, I'm also a direct line. Isn't that good? So my biological mother died, and then I had the same mother as you. Even because of me, my fifth brother, and my fourth brother, who originally could not have contact with practice, but in order for me to practice in name, they were also given the qualification to practice. Outsiders laugh at our Jing family. The family is not big, but there are many practitioners. Sooner or later, something will happen. But who knows these inside stories? After listening to Jing Chan's words, Jing Wang shook his body and said bitterly and weakly, "You know everything. Yes, my father, the direct lineage, was indeed wrong first, but at most he let down your biological mother. I have a clear conscience towards you." Jing Chan lowered his head, a trace of wood grain appeared on the palm of his hand, and he murmured in a low voice, "I could understand people's words. When I opened my eyes, I was less than 1 year old, and I understood the ways of the world. When my mother died, I was lying beside her clapping and laughing. My father thought I was too young to understand, but how could he have expected that I would understand everything at the age of 1? Jing Wang, a natural saint, is such a monster. Haha." The wood grain on Jing Chan's palm had already spread to his whole body. He sneered and said, "Since then, I have understood that in this Jing family, the family rules are like cages, and family members are like tigers. The world is also like this. There are cages and tigers everywhere. Big brother, do you understand that I have no hatred or grudge against you? It's just because fourth and fifth brothers have affected my ability to become stronger. If they die, the resources will fall on me. I want to become stronger. I don't want to be imprisoned and die in the tiger's mouth like my mother." Jing Wang looked at him blankly and said, "After more than 10 years of living together, there is no trace of brotherhood left in your heart?" Jing Chan looked at his eldest brother with a complicated expression. His body slowly rose and deformed, gradually turning into a giant tree, emitting terrifying spiritual power fluctuations. Puff! The branches that suddenly appeared penetrated Jing Wang's limbs and strung him in the air. Sixth brother. Jing Wang did not fight back. He stared at Jing Chan and continued to speak, even though he vomited blood. "It was my elder brother. Ahem, it was useless. If I could have protected your mother, if I could have persuaded your father, it was all my elder brother's fault. Don't make the same mistake again. Jing Chan stared blankly at Jing Wan, who had lost his breath. His eyes were full of sorrow. The pain of his body being cruelly pierced did not seem to be as great as the pain in his soul. It seemed that something was planted in his heart, but it could not sprout from the twisted soil. At this time, a loud shout came from a distance. Where? What? Mutated tree man? Retreat. The nearby Jing family members found something strange. They did not realize that this powerful giant tree man was Jing Chan, but they began to retreat as soon as they confirmed the existence of the tree man. Jing Chan came back to his senses from his confusion and looked at the Jing family members who were fleeing in a hurry, and his eyes returned to indifference. Chapter 36. The Cat of Fengshan Religion. There was once a scholar who threw a cat into a black box, and thus came up with the famous experiment, Schrödinger's cat. So, what about throwing a person into a black box? In other words, throw a group of people, the entire Ning mansion, into a black box. The people in the black box cannot get out, and the people outside the black box cannot get in. Before the black box is opened, no one outside knows what is happening inside. The Fengshan cult does not need to send any followers at all. They only need to put the Ning mansion in the black box, and then open the black box at an appropriate time, to give the world a surprise. Chen Jing felt his scalp tingling. If he was not the one locked in the black box, he would definitely say that it is worthy of being a well-known cult in Jiazhou, and it is quite artistic. But now he is also locked in the black box, and he is speechless. Hua Qingsha didn't quite understand. Although she was unwilling to admit that the young man in front of her could understand things that she could not understand for a while, there was no doubt that the scholar, Schrödinger, cat, and various unknown but seemingly powerful words strengthened his persuasiveness. But how could this girl be fooled by a mere country slang? It was so strange. So what about the black box? Haven't we known about this situation for a long time? Why do you say that the Chen family is finished? The black box creates a closed environment. The eroding spiritual rain destroys the lower soil, and the demise of one of the four major clans breaks the balance. I thought it was a question whether the Qingnang sect would survive, but you told me that the Qingnang sect has a big killer that hasn't been deployed, so everyone knows that the Qingnang sect is still there, so it's also an open secret that the Qingnang sect is being held back. Chen Jing quickly went over what had happened during this period, and finally said, isn't the current situation the best time to reshuffle the cards? For the remaining three families, it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, an opportunity to do whatever they do without having to bear the consequences. How dare they act recklessly? Aren't they afraid of following in the footsteps of the Mi family? On the contrary, the demise of the Mi family is a precedent, so now the latest rule in the black box is that fighting until the destruction of the clan is allowed. The clans have been passed down for a long time, and they have always acted prudently. And they know that the Qingnang sect is still there, so how could they fight to the point of losing their minds? Hua Qingsha denied it. This involves some dark forest laws. Even if a noble family is rational and will not take the initiative to attack, how can they judge whether the other party is as rational as themselves? Will not take the initiative to attack themselves. How to judge whether the other party thinks that they will not attack them? The chain of suspicion cannot be broken. The final result must be that the three families will enter a state of high alert just in case and show their muscles to deter the other party from making any rash moves. And the next step of the Cold War is to really fight. From disliking each other to starting a war of words, it only takes a small misunderstanding, and bang, the nervous parties will fight. Chen Jing described the possible future, and then said, of course, I'm only talking about the worst case scenario, and there is also the factor of a common foreign enemy. Teachers are, what is the possibility of the foreign enemy breaking through the city? Either 100% or 0%. Hua Qingsha replied. In other words, it can only be attacked by dimensionality reduction, otherwise as long as it is at the same level, the city will be invincible. Well, the external enemies are almost non-existent. Chen Jing sighed. Under this situation, no one can stop them from fighting each other except for their own high degree of restraint. Why would the internal fighting of the nobles affect the Chen family? We humans always like to follow suit. We have no time to care about the fighting in the inner city, and the outer city will definitely be caught in the vortex of suspicion. Not only that, don't you think that the best fuse is the vassal family in the outer city? Chen Jing rubbed his forehead. The Chen family has lost money. Once it gets completely chaotic, it will definitely be the target of public criticism. Being the target of public criticism, there is nowhere to escape. It feels like standing on the roof of a 3-story building, watching the fire on the first floor burn upwards. Why is this happening? Just planting and planting. Life was about to get better. How come it was all over all of a sudden? He changed his thinking posture, only to find that Huaqingsha was looking at him without blinking. He couldn't help but wipe his face and asked in confusion, "Teacher Zaya, is there something you haven't sorted out yet?" "Not really." Huaqingsha looked at something rare and precious and said, "Chen Jing, aren't you a farmer in the countryside? How come you think so far and think so carefully?" Chen Jing didn't know how to describe his feelings. It was probably like someone said, "Wow, disasters are always one step behind you." It was probably a compliment. But for the person involved, why does disaster always find me? Is the core. "Don't worry, if things can't be done, I will take you with me." Huaqingsha raised a sunny smile. "Thank you, Teacher Zaya. Every time I run away in my life, I run with you." What a wonderful fate. Chen Jing found that this girl seemed to have a unique talent in running away. Of course, he didn't want to run. It seemed that Chen Jing's reluctant and helpless expression was too obvious. Huaqingsha said with her hands behind her back, her long hair flying lightly as she walked. "Anyway, if you want to escape, I'll go with you. If you want to stay, I'll avenge you if you die. If you have other ideas, just go for it, and I'll help you." Chen Jing looked at Huaqingsha, who was smiling and looking at him, and couldn't help asking the question that had been buried in his heart for a long time. "Teacher Zaya seems to have treated me too well. I thought you would continue to hold it in, but you finally couldn't help it?" Huaqingsha's beautiful eyes revealed a teasing look, and she said, "I used to treat you well, because you have special qualifications, and are very suitable for the unique inheritance of my King Nang sect. I was going to capture you, and take you back to be my junior brother. I treated you well later, because I thought you were interesting. You are not like a country boy. You have a meticulous mind and act in an unconventional way. You often give me some unexpected surprises. What about now?" "Now?" Huaqingsha came closer and looked up at his eyes from bottom to top. Suddenly, she turned away and said with a slight sidelong glance, "I won't tell you now." The black hair that had been thrown over made his nose itchy. Chen Jing touched his nose and asked curiously, "When can we tell you?" But she did not give a specific response. At this time, the autumn breeze was pleasant and the mountain scenery was stunning. Chen Jing suddenly calmed down. Since she didn't say anything, why bother to find out the truth? The calm before the storm. Every minute and every second is precious. Recommended on the weekend. The first round of recommendations decides the life and death of this book. Please read it. Chapter 37. The Powerful Families Who Wish for Their Demise. I never thought that one day, I, Ying Chundao, would be able to stand openly on the territory of Anning Prefecture. My fellow disciples, I'm very touched. Are you touched? Abu. Ha 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 ha. The one-eyed man who called himself Ying Chundao laughed non-stop, and his spiritual power with a strong smell of blood spread out wantonly, scaring the birds in the sky and the reptiles on the ground to flee. Suddenly, the one-eyed man who was still laughing the moment before knelt on the ground the next moment, crying heartbreakingly. For 20 years, a full 20 years, I have been hiding here and there, barely surviving. A dignified Zuanine stage cultivator, living with wild beasts in the mountains, and competing for food with alien races. Do you know how I have been living? A younger brother knelt on the ground, moved by the scene, and burst into tears. That year in Anning Mansion, Master Chen Dao fought against Duandi of the Duan family. He was assassinated by the villains and the score was 0-3. He lost the position of the King Nang sect's heir. Master Chen Dao was such a great man, but he could only leave the family according to the bet, hiding his name, and having a hard time returning home. I saw Master Chen Dao crying at night. I will never forget this scene. At that time, I swore that, if I could come back again, I would definitely let the master get back everything he lost. Woo wow. All the younger brothers cried and beat their chests. They look like minions now, but who knows that 20 years ago, they were also young masters of the inner city with fluttering sleeves, enjoying a life of luxury. But fortunately, they are back. Everything is back. Let's go to the city. Wiping away his tears, Chen Jing shouted viciously. The group set off aggressively, and the mutated tree people that emerged along the way were easily killed by them, and then they dared not appear in front of them. They went straight to the outside of the city. Chen Jing looked at the victims outside the city and said, in just 20 years, the city has become like this. The people in the city are all incompetent. It's time for Master Chen Jing to take over the restoration. The younger brother said immediately. Let's go. They passed through the refugees in the outer city area, stood under the tall city wall of the city, and stopped again. The younger brother swallowed his saliva and said, Master, the city is guarded by a spiritual treasure. If the spiritual treasure finds out, we may die without a burial place. Ridiculous. The spiritual treasure was set up by the ancestor of the King Nang sect when the city was built. The ancestor said that this treasure only kills demons and does not hurt the people. Could it be that I'm a demon? Chen Jing questioned. Master is certainly not a demon, but we are here to cause trouble after all. The younger brother has a clear understanding of his position. Nonsense. Chen Jing showed no fear and took the initiative to walk into the city, saying as he walked, I'm a commoner. How can Ling Bao kill me? He said so, but after walking a few steps, he was sweating profusely. After passing through the city gate, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and then shouted, young master is the man of destiny and the king has returned. When they arrived in the city, Chen Jing suddenly waved his hand and said, you change your clothes, and wait for me at the old place. I have some private matters to deal with. After that, he hurriedly walked towards a place. Arrived outside a house. Chen Jing slowed down his pace, and looked at a young woman through the gaps in the leaves. The woman was dressed simply, thin, and focused. She was surrounded by shredded talisman paper and scattered cinnabar. My daughter has grown up. Looking at the face that was similar to his wife's when she was young, Chen Jing almost burst into tears again. When she was expelled, her daughter was still a little kid. Now she is a young lady like her mother, but a little thinner. She noticed the sound. She looked up and looked at the middle-aged man who looked a bit like her and was shocked. Does the Ing family have such an elder son? The woman opened her eyes wide. Dad? Impossible. My dad has long. A strong shock emerged from her heart. As a talisman master, she must have a pair of hands as steady as Mount Tay, but at this moment, her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. I'm back. Chen Jing raised a joyful smile. After I left, the one I was most worried about was you. You've suffered so much in the past 20 years. The woman shook her head and said, are you really my father? I heard from them that you were expelled from the family and could never come back. Ha ha ha. When Chen Jing mentioned this, hatred emerged in his eyes, and he said, what happened back then was not just a simple fight, but a struggle for power between the talisman school and the magic school in the family. The Ing family started with spiritual talismans, and the family head's line is centered on talisman masters. Although talisman masters are not bad in combat and can make money, their cultivation is generally poor. After all, making talismans is also a very energy consuming thing. If you want to improve the way of talisman masters, you will naturally fall behind in your cultivation. As the family grows and grows, there are all kinds of places to spend money. The talisman master has even less energy to improve his own cultivation and can only devote all his energy to making talismans to make money for the family. The cultivation resources earned were invested in another person who was also a direct descendant, which was the prototype of the talisman school and the magic school. At the beginning, there was no so-called Fu sect or Fa sect. They were all the closest relatives, and there was no difference between them. But as the family grew from generation to generation, from the two brothers in the beginning, they became two families, and finally two factions. The relationship between the two sides became worse and worse as the distance became farther and farther and the friction increased. The Fu sect felt that the family was not so short of money now, and it was time to invest resources in the main family and let the main family members improve their cultivation. The Fa sect felt that the ancestral law could not be changed. They talked about how they paid for the main family in the past, as if no one had paid for the family in the past. At that time, the status of the wealthy family was not stable, and those who died in the family were all from their far sect. Now that the peaches are ripe, you want to pick them and eat them alone. Oh, that's a good idea, but why? Because you are so arrogant? It's just to kill the donkey after it has done its job and want to cultivate more of your own descendants. In short, within the high walls and courtyards, the struggle for resource allocation within the wealthy families is also fierce. The final result was that the Ying family's talisman faction failed completely. The honest ones made talismans for the family, and the dishonest ones, mainly Ying Chendao, were exiled and marginalized. The current family head has become the former legal faction. So that's how it is. I really thought that my father made a big mistake. The woman suddenly realized, and then, under her father's inquiry, she talked about her past over the years. Because she was too young at that time, even though she was the daughter of Ying Chendao, she was not among the exiles, but was marginalized to the extreme. When she grew up, she could only make talismans to provide financial resources for the family. She had the name of a member of the Ying family, but lived a life that was no different from that of a black slave. Ying Chendao was very angry at first, but later heard that his daughter Ying Huayan did not give up improving herself under such circumstances. She worked hard to study the talisman technology and improve the success rate of talisman making. So as to save some talisman making materials, she took the initiative to get to know the waiters working in the Chamber of Commerce and sold talismans at low prices through private channels to earn spiritual cultivation resources. After hearing this, Ying Chendao could no longer hold back his tears and felt sorry for his daughter's understanding. Father is back. From now on, I will never let you fall into this situation again. Ying Chendao said solemnly as if swearing, and then said lovingly, Dad came back in a hurry and brought nothing with him. Huayan, if you want anything, just tell me. Dad, I only want one thing. Can you really give it to me? Ying Huayan pursed her lips. Say it. I want the Ying family to perish. Chapter 38 Teacher Zai's personality crisis. Give me another bottle of Ninghe pill. On King Niu Mountain, Chen Jing stretched out his hand and a Ninghe pill was handed to him. Even the lid was unscrewed, and he just had to pour it into his mouth. Last time, Hua Qingsha and I analyzed the current situation of Anning Mansion and came to a conclusion that was not optimistic. After thinking about countermeasures, there are several ideas. One is to take the political route, that is, to form an alliance with other cultivation families, to form alliances, to make friends with distant families and to attack nearby families, to try to grasp the initiative, and to accumulate considerable power before the chaos. But Chen Jing thinks this is a bad idea. There are two indispensable factors for alliances, common interests and common threats. Common interests, does the Chen family have them? No. It is better to say that the inexplicable wealth of the Chen family is exactly the common interests that other families expect to divide up in the alliance. And Chen Jing was too ruthless last time. He chopped melons and vegetables, which was quite cool. He chopped all the families in the nearby circle. On the contrary, it is more in line with the common threat in the eyes of other family alliances. The middle strategy is to take the initiative and defeat them one by one. Instead of waiting for others to come to the door, it is better to destroy the surrounding families one by one now. Unfortunately, people are not pigs. Even pigs will run away. Destroying one or two families and then 1v8 is really not a very good action strategy. The last time Chen Jing fought against many alone, he was actually well prepared and had a planned counter ambush. From beginning to end, he was fighting while others were running. If you really push them to the limit, in the face of the disaster of genocide, they will give you two blows without caring about their lives, and you can't stand it. So, Chen Jing thinks that the best strategy at the moment is really passive defense, playing the role of a turtle. People are here to make a fortune. Let them know that the Chen family is not easy to mess with when they can't take advantage. Hey, allies are also very fragrant, right? The interest alliance is very fragile when it is not profitable. So, Chen Jing began to immerse himself in practice. In addition, all the people in the Chen family have started the practice mode of crazy demons, completely stopped pretending, and ate the condensed Hua pills as candy beans. As long as we can pass this level, we can talk about the future later. The last spiritual orifice of the 5 internal organs is about to condense. It has a very strange property. Chen Jing breathed a sigh of relief and said, could it be the property of staying up late? The later it gets to the night, the better it feels. No night owl spiritual power. Hua Qingsha rolled her eyes. Night spiritual power. There is no night spiritual power either. Night and day are just the terms used by our human race to distinguish time periods. In fact, night and day are composed of many different things. For example, night has the power of moonlight, yin energy, shadows, etc. Your cultivation foundation is still too poor. Hua Qingsha sat on the bed, shaking her legs, and instructing him to practice. Chen Jing was thoughtful. Then I know what kind of spiritual power I have. As he said that, his figure suddenly became thin and lost color, and then vaguely disappeared from Hua Qingsha's sight. Hua Qingsha swept her consciousness, and found that Chen Jing was still in the same place, and the 5 different spiritual powers around him turned into spiritual orifices, circulating back and forth. Apparently, in the time it took to speak, the last of the 5 internal organs had already been completed. She glanced at it, and said in a surprised tone, Shadow, this is a very rare type of spiritual power. Generally, only spirits and ghosts can collect this kind of spiritual power. I didn't expect that the 5th orifice you finally derived would be this. Wind spiritual power, pure spiritual energy, moonlight power, shadow power, merit and will power, and the 5 internal organs spiritual orifices were all formed. Who cares? It's fine as long as it can be used. Now I have opened 8 orifices, and I only need the last one to complete it. Teacher Zaya, you only said one sentence in your message about the key point of the last orifice, which is to follow your heart. I don't quite understand. Chen Jing said. 3 Danshan, 5 internal organs. The last one is called life orifice, also known as the original self orifice, true self orifice. Hua Qingsha explained briefly, then changed her tone and said, can you notice the difference between the 3 Danshan and the 5 internal organs orifices? There are too many differences. Yes, I'll just say it directly. The difference lies in freedom. The 3 Danshan spiritual orifices are fixed, while the 5 internal organs orifices can be composed of any 5 kinds of spiritual power, which has a certain degree of freedom. The last true self orifice is purely customized. Chen Jing followed the words. Customized. This word is appropriate. You guessed it right. The last orifice is never fixed. As long as you think it through, you can condense it on the spot, thus completing the 9 orifices. My past experience tells me that free is the most expensive. Customized ones should not be defined randomly. Hua Qingsha tilted her head. What a weird thing. We cultivators of this generation cultivate immortality and ask for the Tao. Immortality is immortality, and Tao is the heart of Tao. The original self orifice and the orifice opening period is the first time for cultivators to ask about the heart of Tao. That is, what Tao do you seek? Immortality? Chen Jing said casually. Hua Qingsha said, anything is fine. People have 7 emotions and 6 desires, and there are more than one way to seek the Tao. It's just that master told me that the purer and more determined one's heart is in seeking the Tao, the stronger the Zuanine will be. The more complicated and repetitive one's heart is in seeking the Tao, the weaker the Zuanine will be, or even no Zuanine will be obtained. Zuanine is the next realm after the orifice. As for seeking the Tao, he didn't understand. Chen Jing subconsciously understood it as filling in the application form, and stood in awe. I will think it through. For a natural saint, this level is often the easiest. Hua Qingsha only said this in her heart. She was very curious about what kind of self and Tao heart Chen Jing's 9th orifice was. Chen Jing asked at this time, what is Teacher Zaya's self orifice? I have already obtained the Zuanine. Just tell you what my Zuanine is. A dark space slowly emerged behind Hua Qingsha. Suddenly, the dark was broken, and a brilliant sun pushed away the clouds and mist, expelling the darkness, and a warm light spread all over the world. My Zuanine is my name, Qingsha. It feels like it restrains me. So what Qingsha? It's the same, whether I say it or not. Oh, I can only say this much. Master doesn't let me mention Zuanine's real name. I understand. It's the pure heart. Chen Jing said casually. Huh. Hua Qingsha was stunned on the spot, silently retracted the Zuanine vision behind her, curled up her dangling feet, hugged her knees, and asked cautiously in a low voice, "Why do you know?" She still remembered the words and expression of her master at that time. Good news, the best Zuanine vision, the pure heart, the path of cultivation is smooth, and the road is expected. Bad news, easy to be deceived, a fool without hope, and a difficult human disaster. Disciple, remember what your master said, never mention the real name of your Zuanine vision to others. Usually, talk less if you can, do less if you can. If you have to do something, your master will make it easier for you. She was a little hurt. How can this girl be a fool? Her intelligence is obviously normal. She is just unlucky to owe so many spirit stones. Although she disagreed with her master's words, she still obeyed him. Over time, she felt inexplicably ashamed that others knew her real name. Chen Jing looked at her shameful and angry look with a smile in his eyes. Senior Sister Hua, Senior Sister Hua, you are actually like this. Chapter 39, Growing Vegetables at the Edge of the Storm. Chen Jing didn't know that Teacher Zai's master had called her a big fool. If he knew, he would definitely not agree. Hua Qingsha's intelligence is undoubtedly normal. She is just willing to be the first person to show kindness in the process of getting along with others. In this world, kindness is almost extinct among adults, and the mistakes of endangered animals are actually because their own value is too high. The following practice has undergone some changes. One is to ask about the heart of Tao and condense the ninth spiritual orifice. The other is Hua Qingsha's original purpose, the secret method of the Qingnang sect, the innate plant energy. By planting spiritual plants and collecting the innate plant energy born from the spiritual plants, the 9 orifices can communicate with the gods and produce new magical uses. In other words, Chen Jing began to return to his old job and work hard in the fields. Every day, he replaced the duckweed in 10 ponds with hybrids, and then planted various spiritual plants in other spiritual fields. Now it is autumn. Most spiritual plants such as peo and rice are no longer suitable for planting. Duckweed is also afraid of cold. It is okay in autumn, but it is completely useless in winter. Even so, the current yield has gradually decreased, which makes his collection efficiency not as high as he imagined. After realizing this problem, Chen Jing opened the hybridization book. Most spiritual plants are actually not much different from ordinary plants, but they have an additional need for spiritual power veins, just like cattle tendon grass, which is ordinary weeds when placed outside, and spiritual cattle tendons when placed in spiritual fields. In addition, the limitations of soil fertility, soil environment, temperature, etc. still exist. Either change the environment, or change the spiritual plants, to adapt to the cold. What kind of spiritual plant do I need now? In addition to satisfying my collection of innate grass and wood energy, it should have some other functions. Short growth cycle, cold resistance. In addition to this, add some other functions. Chen Jing did not find anything that meets the goal from the existing illustrations. Thinking for a moment, he went home to ask Hua Qingsha, how did the Qingnang sect solve the problem of growing spiritual plants in winter? The formation maintains temperature, humidity, light, etc. So it's like spring all year round. Oh, it's okay. Immortal greenhouse, sorry for the disrespect. Chen Jing returned empty-handed, and his younger sister happened to bring 2 meals. After talking to her for a few words, he sent her back, and took the bowls and chopsticks back, to eat with Hua Qingsha. Immortals can fast, but it is not necessary, because refining essence into qi has always been one of the best ways to improve spiritual power. Of course, the Chen family's food can't be called delicacies from the mountains and the sea, except for the steamed rice made from spiritual rice, which is barely worth mentioning. The rest are just ordinary and mundane dishes. I don't know if you eat leeks, Chen Jing said. Many people are sensitive to the smell of onions, ginger, garlic, etc. In addition, for some reasons, they don't touch meat. Fishy refers to all meat, and meat refers to dishes with strong smells, including leeks. A cultivator has no scruples. Hua Qingsha said that she had no taboos, and ate very quickly. After finishing, she said regretfully, "It's a pity that they are all ordinary dishes. They are delicious, but they can't improve cultivation." Chen Jing said, "Spirit beast meat is too expensive, and the Mi family has been destroyed. It's hard for the entire Ning mansion to eat a bite again. In addition to spirit beast meat, fruits, medicines, and vegetables can all be spiritual plants, just like this leek. In our Nang sect, there are disciples who plant it in the spiritual field, turning it into spiritual vegetables. It tastes unique and can improve cultivation. Others only know that our Nang sect has the inheritance of immortal farmers. In fact, our Nang sect's spiritual food recipes are the real unique skills. Let me tell you in detail." Speaking of her own specialty, Hua Kingsha immediately commented on various delicious dishes with great interest. Chen Jing had a flash of inspiration, and he couldn't hear the following words clearly. "Yes, Ling Fu duckweed is for making money and improving realms. Although the added value is extremely high, it just requires alchemy and is not delicious. Why don't I grow some spiritual plants and vegetables?" In addition, the spiritual duckweed has already supported the family's economic and realm enhancing needs, so there is no need to create similar spiritual plants. It is better to expand into a new field. There is another point. For the Tankyo stage cultivators, spiritual food is mostly icing on the cake. If they really want to practice hard, they have to eat elixirs. For those below the Tankyo stage, it is a real necessity. Like PO and rice, the spiritual power contained in spiritual plants and vegetables is very easy to absorb. In the first realm of cultivation, the Yunling stage, spiritual food is the main food, and it is not suitable to eat more powerful elixirs. After mortals eat, the mild spiritual power is absorbed into the body. If they can intercept and prevent it from dissipating, they are Yunling cultivators and have opened the road of cultivation. Even if they fail to intercept it, at least they can guarantee a few days of vigorous energy. In the current environment, they can also resist the erosion of the erosion rain for a few days, without worrying about the recurrence of old diseases. Okay, I think it's okay. Chen Jing thought more and more about it. He left in a hurry after saying that he had an idea, put on the bamboo basket, picked up the hoe, and left in a hurry. At the family spiritual field, the whole family accompanied Chen Jing to plant the dug leeks in the precious spiritual field. Ordinary plants are not included in the illustrations. They can only be nurtured by spiritual power and transformed into spiritual plant varieties. Then Chen Jing can crossbreed them with other spiritual plants, strengthen them, and brush the innate grass and wood energy. The 1-month period passed quickly. Many major events happened in the city during this period. Duandi, the head of the Duan family, was ambushed by a mysterious person and was seriously injured. After waking up, Duandi insisted that it was done by the Yang family. The mysterious person who ambushed him that day used the Yang family's unique skills. The head of the Yang family said, "Bullshit, if you talk nonsense again, I will knock your head off." Duandi was so angry that his nose was crooked. The blood pressure of the entire Duan family rose, and they all expressed that they would make the Yang family pay a heavy price. But although they scolded, they didn't fight. Seeing that the two families were so calm, the blacksmith Lei family came out to testify. "I'm a passerby, not exaggerating or slandering. I'm just saying something fair. In short, it is just the three of us, not the business alliance. It was not me who did it. It must have been the Yang family. However, as a neutral and friendly third party, the Lei family hereby calls on you to consider the overall situation, maintain restraint, strengthen communication, and handle differences in a peaceful way, blah blah." To the victim Duandi, the Lei family advised kindly, "You are only seriously injured. You are not dead. Even if you die, there will be someone to take over, right? Be tolerant for the overall situation, but let's be honest, if it were our Lei family, we would not tolerate it, blah blah." To the perpetrator Yang family, the Lei family said earnestly, "You started it first, and you can't kill them. You have already done it. Be a man, go and kowtow to them, admit your mistakes, apologize, and I will take charge of the Lei family and help you to plead for mercy, and this matter will just pass, blah blah." The Yang family was really wronged. They didn't know that Yang Chendao was back. They just thought that the Duan family and the Lei family were going to join forces to attack them. You can't be timid at this time. You have to be tough and tough to the end. Come on, come on, shoot him in the head, believe it or not. Chapter 40, Leak Matters. Please read on. After a month, after the careful care of the Chen family, the chives can be said to be thriving. Chen Jing also successfully lit up a new illustration. Chives, 1 star, 100%. Chives nourished by the spiritual power of the earth veins have a unique and slightly fragrant smell, and their taste is slightly salty, which can nourish the kidneys and boost yang. Label, none. This is the most ordinary and unpretentious spiritual plant I lit up. Chen Jing stayed on the label none for a long time, feeling emotional. Whether these labels exist is a metaphysics. Some 1-star spiritual plants have 3 or 4 entry labels, both positive and negative, while 2-star spiritual plants like the moon condensation tree only have 1 label. The spiritual plant chives simply have no labels. Chen Jing didn't care too much. Although chives are notoriously careless and lazy vegetables, if you want them to grow well, the necessary management is actually not less. During this period, the whole family was mobilized to grow chives. Although the elders of the clan were surprised as to why this rubbish was planted on the precious spiritual field, they did not ask much. Chen Jing felt that his face was probably not enough to do such a ridiculous thing, so he did not even ask a question. Most likely, it was because of Hua Qingsha, the King Nang sect's descendant. What's wrong with wanting to eat some high quality leeks? That was the noble person who helped his family to make pills. By the way, Chen Jing temporarily pushed the alchemy skills to Hua Qingsha, and did not say that he had learned the alchemy skills for the time being. Sometimes, one's reputation value is not enough, so it is necessary to find an authoritative endorsement in time. What hybrid? Chen Jing opened the hybridization book and thought about who would be a good match for this guy. Then, the 3 big words Ling Fu duckweed attracted his attention. As the king of cost effectiveness with a green label, rapid reproduction, there is really no reason not to arrange it. Zioman is really my lucky star. Chen Jing had a feeling that the 1-star spiritual plant Ling Fu duckweed would probably be enough for him to use for a lifetime. The label is excellent and the entry threshold is low. If Zioman hadn't transformed the plants in the water into spiritual plants, it would have taken a lot of effort to get them. While thinking, he didn't stop, and he had already completed this hybridization. With leeks as the main ingredient and spiritual duckweed as the supplement, the new hybrid leek was born, still a 1-star spiritual plant, with only 1 more rapid reproduction on the panel than before. In terms of appearance, the originally slender leek leaves became wide and thin, and it felt like they were flattened. 2-dimensional leek, good. Chen Jing approved of its new skin. Leeks grow fast to begin with, and now they are even better. I'm about to start the fast brushing mode and take off from the spot. Fantasizing about a better life, Chen Jing began to convert to the hybrid version on a large scale. The first day, the whole Chen family was grateful for eating the new spiritual vegetable. Although it was just a small vegetable, it broke the situation where the Chen family could only eat spiritual rice for generations. This was a small step for leeks, but a big step for the Chen family. The clan members just felt that life was getting better. The second day, after confirming the spiritual leek in the bowl again, he realized that this was not a dream. The cohesion of the family was getting stronger, and his hands were more powerful when hoeing the ground. The third day, the old people of the grandfather's generation shared the hard times in the past, and were grateful for the leek in the bowl. The fourth day, the brand new spiritual leek was shared with the Chen family members except the direct line. The Chen family was grateful and tears were shed. Joy spread again. The fifth day, gratitude. Gratitude is all. Half a month passed. Hua Qingsha opened the lunch box. Scrambled eggs with leek. Leek box. Pork and leek dumplings. Cold leek. Stir-fried leek with meat. Stir-fried leek with river shrimp. Stir-fried leek with dried tofu. Stir-fried leek with mung bean sprouts. A total of 9 dishes, all exuding the tempting aroma of leek. But, Hua Qingsha only felt her scalp tingling, and her eyes collapsed. Chen Jing, if you have any opinions about me, you can just say it directly. There is no need to make me eat leeks for a whole half month. But, I also ate leeks for half a month. Chen Jing said, tears almost falling. He was happy to brush the spiritual plants, and the whole Chen family was happy at first. But happiness comes and goes quickly. Leeks are not like spiritual rice. If you keep eating them, you will really vomit. Now everyone in the Chen family is afraid of leeks, but they have to eat them. After all, this thing is also very precious. Let me go. Hua Qingsha was speechless and choked. Now she regretted it. She regretted why she had to mention that this thing could be made into a spiritual plant when she was eating leeks. What a sin. Chen Jing gritted his teeth and stuffed the leeks into his mouth, chewed them hard and swallowed them, saying, I can't stand it anymore. I plan to take all these leeks to the capital city to distribute porridge. I can't let only our Chen family suffer this pain. Bah, enjoy this blessing. The Chen family has never stopped distributing porridge. It's just that Chen Jing no longer went there in person, but asked the mortal Chen family to continue to maintain it. Can't we not plant it? No, if you want to ask why, please look at it, Teacher Zaya. Chen Jing's mind moved, and the spiritual orifice was fully stimulated, emitting the spiritual power fluctuations of a late-stage cultivator. His lower danshan, middle danshan, and upper danshan suddenly underwent wonderful changes. It seemed that a blood-colored lotus appeared in the spiritual orifice of the lower danshan, and a burly god stood on the lotus. The god's face was blurred, his muscles were knotted, and his blood was vigorous. There was a white lotus in the middle danshan, and a handsome immortal sat on the lotus, with an immortal aura. There was also a lotus in the upper danshan, which was transparent and illusory, and a golden armored god sat on it, with unpredictable power. It was exactly what the second half of the secret method said about seeing the god through the orifice. I don't think I have time to help you. Hua Qingsha stared at this scene blankly. She knew that Chen Jing planted spiritual plants to obtain the innate energy of plants and trees, but she was still waiting for Chen Jing to accumulate to a certain level before asking her for details. As a result, he had already seen the gods in his 3 orifices. What a ghost. Do I need help with this? Chen Jing was puzzled. The innate energy in the spiritual orifices is accumulated and overflowing, and it will naturally sublimate and see the gods. Overflowing, naturally. Hua Qingsha felt a little bitter. What a prodigal son. She had read a lot of cultivation classics, but she had never heard of accumulating it. It is not easy to collect the innate energy of plants and trees. You only need to accumulate a small amount to evolve and see the gods through technology. As a result, it doesn't make sense. The Qingnang sect is not without people with the appearance of saints, but it is definitely not to this extent. Even so, Hua Qingsha has been strong all her life. She tried her best to be upright and said lightly, it seems that your aptitude is not too bad. It's okay. Chen Jing nodded. Hold on. Hua Qingsha said, in that case, you should continue to work hard. As for the benefits of seeing the gods, you should have initially sensed them. That's right. Speaking of this, Chen Jing was still very happy. After seeing the gods, the spiritual orifice is no longer a simple engine, but has a skill that can be activated. 3 new spiritual orifice skills. He named them Martial Arts Body, Sea of Inclusion, and Incarnation of Divine Consciousness. If there are typos or incoherence, or problems with the wording, please correct them. Chapter 41 The Wind Rises. This is too much bullying. This is too much bullying. The head of my Duan family was beaten by outsiders and couldn't get out of bed. He was bullied by others, but my sons didn't say a word and were indifferent. Oh, God, ancestors, you unfilial descendants have brought shame to our ancestors. Where is Duandi? Where is Duandi? I want to see the head of the family. I want to beat the Ying family. Duan Mansion, in the lobby. A middle-aged man, wearing golden armor, shouted loudly in front of everyone in the Duan family. His expression and tone were so sad that it was moving. In front of the man in golden armor, a slightly immature young man blushed. Uncle, my father's injury has not healed yet. Is he too injured to get out of bed? Is he unconscious? If he can't handle family affairs, the young head of the family should take on this important task, and we uncles will do our best to assist him. The man in golden armor stared at the young man. The young man said angrily, father will make the decision. To make the decision means to be a coward. How can my Duan family have such a head? He has lost the spirit of the clan and the reputation of our ancestors. The golden armored uncle of the Duan family started shouting again. If you don't give me an explanation, don't blame me for disregarding the face of the head of the family and breaking in to ask for clarification today. There was really no other way. The young man could only angrily reply to ask his father. Came to the backyard. Duan Di, the current head of the Duan family, was practicing calligraphy. He was calm and composed, and each stroke was very profound. What was written on the white paper was the word kill one after another. Father, I'm incompetent and can't stop that old man Duan Zeng. The young man said aggrievedly. HMPH. Duan Di's face was gloomy, and he said, see clearly, this is a Duan family, your good uncle, my good brother, my good arm, but now the disaster is coming, but they only think about fighting for power and profit, regardless of right and wrong, regardless of the overall situation. Father, what should we do? Now that I think about it carefully, there are many strange things about the Yang family's sneak attack on my father. Unfortunately, I was frightened at the time and failed to investigate in detail. Now that things have come to this, it is useless. Lina, do you know where the enemies of my Duan family come from? Duan Di said. The mastermind behind the scenes in Jiachang Mountain is the enemy, the Yang family, the Lei family, are the enemy, and the uncle is the enemy. Duan Lin replied. Do you know which of these three enemies is slow, which is urgent, which is light, and which is heavy? Duan Di asked again. Duan Lin said, the enemies in the 9-layered mountain cannot break through the city guarded by spiritual treasures, so they are the lightest and slowest to deal with. The Yang and Lei families are like wolves and tigers lurking around us, so they should be given priority, and although my uncle covets power, he is one of our family, so he should be second. Dad, do you mean that I should not be hostile to my uncle, and now we should put unity first and the overall situation first? He looked at his father with joy, but was met with his father's eyes that looked at him as if he were a fool. Duan Lin, Duan Di shook his head, sighed, and said, once the enemies from Jiachang Mountain enter the city will be destroyed at any time. This enemy is the most serious. But the city is protected by spiritual treasures, and it is difficult to break the city. Therefore, the enemies from Jiachang Mountain, although serious, are the slowest. The Yang family and the Lei family may seem like tigers and wolves, but my Duan family is also a strong dragon. They form a triangle, restraining each other and maintaining balance. As long as they don't move rashly, there will be no flaws and they can live in peace. Therefore, this enemy is also serious, but also slower. The real enemy of my Duan family is not an external enemy, but your uncle Duan Zeng. Your uncle is a thorn in the eyes and a thorn in the flesh. Although he can't destroy the city or the Duan family, but he can destroy you and me, father and son. This enemy is the lightest, but the most urgent. Think about what happened in the Yang family 20 years ago. Do you understand the priorities? Duan Lin suddenly understood and said, Father, I understand. Duan Di said, your uncle Duan Zeng always talks about the honor of the family and the shame of the ancestors. What he wants is nothing more than soldiers and money from us. With these two things, he has the final say on whether to attack the Yang family and how to attack the Yang family. Is this the head of the family, Duan Zeng's, or mine, Duan Di's? Father, what can I do? Duan Lin trembled all over. Since your uncle dares to do these things, he must have a lot of tricks up his sleeve and is sure to take some of the clan soldiers and treasures from me. At this point, Duan Di's eyes were cold. He dipped his pen in thick ink and wrote the word kill on the paper fiercely. Then let's do as he wishes and attack the Yang family. A small courtyard somewhere in the inner city. Yang Chendale listened to his subordinate's report with a smile in his eyes. Ha 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 ha, just as I expected. Everything is just as I expected. Duan Di, the old man, really reacted, but unfortunately, he fell into my trap after all. Yang, who was drawing talismans on the side, shook his sore wrist and asked, Dad, why are you so happy? I told you a few days ago that the Yang family was once divided into two factions and fought each other. In fact, all the big families are like this. I set an ambush and severely injured Duan Di. Duan Di mistakenly thought that it was the Yang family who did it at first, but he must have reacted at this time. Someone else set the ambush, but it was a pity that it was useless. The other branch of the Duan family would not miss this opportunity. If there is no chaos, if there is no fighting, wouldn't the opportunity come in vain? There must be faction representatives in the Duan family who are dissatisfied with the status quo and intend to fight for power. Duan's next step is also within my expectations. 20 years ago, this guy took advantage of the fierce infighting in the Yang family and colluded with the Yang family's internal response to harm my father, making me homeless. Duandi became the head of the family because of this, and the Yang family's internal response is now in a high position. Outsiders thought that the Duan and Yang families were at loggerheads, but in fact, the two had probably talked it over and resolved the misunderstanding. In this case, the Duan family member who was still talking about attacking the Yang family was probably going to follow in my father's footsteps. No, my father only exiled him, and that person would definitely die. After listening to his father's description, Yang Huayin showed a trace of disgust. In order to fight for power and profit, they harmed their relatives and sent them to death. Is this the power of the powerful families so fascinating? Yang Chen was silent. Yang Huayin sighed and continued. Father led the two families to fight each other, and only one person from the Duan family died. It is far from enough to destroy a powerful family. Of course not enough, so my father will take action and send the Duan family and the Yang family away together. My dear daughter, guess which of the three families will be destroyed first? Yang Huayin thought for a moment. The Duan family lost one person. The Yang family also lost one person. So, whoever eats melons and watches the show will be finished. Father is really going to attack the Lei family? Yang Huayin asked in surprise. Of course. Yang Chendao said proudly. The Duan family and the Yang family have been on good terms secretly, and they have suffered the same loss. Who should be blamed for this? We can't just give up, right? This is not a very clever plan, but there is no doubt that it has encountered a suitable environment. When Yang Chendao thought of the scene of the plan being realized, he was so excited that he wanted to vent and roar. The young man who was forced to leave because of the power struggle within the family struggled back from the border of the foreign race. The hatred and desire for revenge that he had been carrying day and night will soon be realized. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 My Way. The so-called foresight. Sometimes, being too far-sighted will make you look like a worrywart. One foot is worried about the coming disaster, and the next foot is safe and sound at home, planting for several months. There is no way. Chen Jing is not a god. He can only speculate on the situation and have a plan for the worst result. As for whether the world is chaotic or not, it depends on the inner city. Chen Jing hopes that they will restrain themselves all the time. He has been handed down by the King Nang sect, and they want to take him as a junior disciple. The script of the winner is predetermined, and it is better not to do anything unexpected. These plants are very smart, seeking benefits and avoiding harm, and few can grow in the cold winter. At this time, Chen Jing's distress is the same as that of most farmers. In a blink of an eye, autumn is about to pass, the weather is getting colder, and the things that can be planted are becoming scarcer. Before solving the technical problems related to the greenhouse in the fairy world, he can only brush leaks crazily, so as to try his best to be able to communicate with the gods when winter comes. Chen Jing's current progress is still to open the 3 Dinshan spiritual orifices. Because the 5 internal organs are considered as a whole, it is not a matter of lighting up one node at a time. He is still settling down. While he was settling down, a series of shocking news came from the city. The Duan family failed to reach an agreement on several conditions, such as asking the Yang family for the murderer, compensation, and apology, so the Duan family officially declared war on the Yang family. The Zuanayan period monks headed by Duan Zeng led the team and attacked the 6 mansions and 7 shops of the Yang family. The Yang family also sent Zuanayan period monks from the clan to fight back. Thanks to the fact that the city is big enough, it was big enough for them to fight inside. The two sides seemed to fight fiercely, but there were not many casualties. Obviously, they still maintained restraint. For Duan Zeng, who advocated war. Fighting was a means, not an end, so he naturally would not fight too hard. Until one dark and windy night, a war that shocked the entire Anning mansion suddenly broke out. The light of the magic weapon penetrated the sky, and the spells released by the talisman lit up half of the night sky. This battle was fought surprisingly quickly. When everyone arrived at the scene, only a large piece of shattered ruins was left, with the corpses of all the people from both sides. D&D was stunned. Good brother, are you so awesome? Being ambushed and plotted against, can you still change one? The head of the Ying family and a group of senior officials were also stunned. Is this how the script is written? I promised to help you get rid of your family, but you got rid of all the people in our family? You are really serious. But, it was originally a powder keg that was not ready to explode. After this misunderstanding, the flame that would not be extinguished was completely ignited. The truth is easy to find out, but who cares about the so-called truth at this time? They only know that the atmosphere has been brewing to this point, and the sword is out of the sheath pointing at people. Even if it is a misunderstanding, do you dare to take back the weapon? Do you really think that people are reasonable and will not chop them down? When the powerful families fully entered the state of external war, their long hidden claws were revealed again, and they were not as slow as others expected. On the contrary, they were as sharp and calm as before, and all internal disputes were extinguished in an instant, and the interests of the clan were supreme. When the hatred between the Ying family and the Duan family reached its peak, they tacitly pointed their guns at the Lei family, who had been fanning the flames and watching the show. Although the Lei family had been prepared, this script was really beyond their expectations. In the Lei family's script, it should be whoever I help wins, not that I suddenly won and was targeted. Facing the battle for survival, the Lei family monks showed their strengths and showed the style of the powerful family. After a fierce resistance, the main branch of the Lei family was destroyed, and several small branches surrendered. The huge family business disappeared in an instant, and was divided up by the Ying family and the Duan family. After eating the Lei family, the Duan family and the Ying family were on the verge of a fight again. Information transmission is often distorted. Anyway, the first news Chen Jing heard was that the mutant tree man attacked and destroyed the city. He was shocked. Then, after Chen Jing combined more information, he confirmed that it was not the mutant tree man who attacked. Instead, the nobles finally couldn't hold back their guns and fired. After the fight, they still had to give an explanation to the public. Therefore, when the news spread, although everyone knew what happened, there was only one explanation. That is, the mutant tree man attacked. Whose family was destroyed? Don't ask, just ask that it was the mutant tree man who did it. And the mutant tree man did attack. Originally, the nobles in the inner city still had control over a certain area nearby, but now they completely abandoned everything outside the inner city. The mutant tree men appeared in 2s and 3s at closer locations. At the same time, the temporarily abandoned outer city families, the cultivator forces preserved in the surrounding counties and towns, and the cultivator forces that escaped from the inner city. Various groups of people started to move outside the city, announcing alliances or announcing attacks on certain families. The peace in the outer city was over. I'm going to distribute porridge. Teachers are, stay at home, and take good care of your wounds. Please help me take care of the people. At this moment, Chen Jing found Hua Qingsha, and said these words. Are you looking for death alone? Hua Qingsha said puzzledly, didn't you say that staying on Qingniu Mountain, focusing on defense, and deterring other families is the best strategy? Chen Jing said, there are still so many disaster victims and ordinary people in the outer city. If I don't take care of them, no one will take care of them. Hua Qingsha said expressionlessly, are you innocent, or am I innocent? I don't have the idea of sacrificing myself to protect ordinary people. Teachers are, your awareness is not high enough. Chen Jing said with a smile. I understand. Hua Qingsha suddenly realized something and said, you want to protect the clan members on Qingniu Mountain. You use yourself as bait and block those who covet the Chen family. If anyone wants to take action against the Chen family, they will definitely give priority to dealing with me who is alone. Everyone knows that I can fight against many enemies alone. If there are still clan members to help, it will be too hard for them to chew on me alone. It will be easier to chew on me alone. Moreover, they dare not bypass me and go to King Niu Mountain first. After all, I'm still young. They want to develop for a long time and dare not let me run away. There will be endless troubles. Chen Jing nodded affirmatively, looked into Hua Qingsha's eyes, and said sincerely, however, I propose to go down the mountain alone, but my father would not agree. I asked Teacher Zha to help me and endorse me. But my father, eldest brother, uncles, and grandfathers all grew up in a peaceful and prosperous era. Although there were fights and even bloodshed, they were not excellent warriors. They were honest and diligent all their lives. They should not appear on a battlefield that does not belong to them. You are not a warrior either. I'm considered to be your junior apprentice. Killing a group of cultivators without a foothold is no different from killing chickens. You have only learned two spells. How can you be considered to have a foothold? Hua Qingsha's eyes widened, and she said angrily, Chen Jing, wait a little longer. When winter is over, my injuries will get better, and I will recover some strength. By then. Senior sister. Chen Jing interrupted her and said seriously, by then, the Chen family will have been in ruins. Perhaps this will be safer for me, and more likely to win in the overall situation. However, if I practice only for my own freedom, I can't do it. This should be my way. Chapter 43 Going Down the Mountain. Mi Li, who is 35 years old this year, is a well-known filial son in Gua County, Anning Prefecture. He has 3 filial piety traits. When he was young, because his family was poor and his bed had no curtains, mosquitoes would gather around his skin every summer. In order to let his parents sleep peacefully at night without being bitten by mosquitoes, Mi Li would sit in front of his parents' bed at night, letting mosquitoes bite him without driving them away, fearing that the mosquitoes would leave him and bite his parents instead of being full. This is the first filial piety, letting mosquitoes eat their blood. When he was young, Mi Li's father was seriously ill and could not get up. The doctor told him that, if he wanted to know whether the disease was serious, he could just taste the feces, so Mi Li went to taste his father's feces. This is the second filial piety, tasting feces and feeling worried. Now, Mi Li has married and started a family, and his son is 3 years old. Because of the disaster, his life is in jeopardy, and his mother often saves food for her 3-year-old son. Mi Li discussed with his wife that, if the son died, he could have another one, but if the old mother died, she could not be resurrected, so they decided to bury the son, and save food to support his mother. This is the third filial piety, burying the son for the mother. In this era, there is no law, only clan rules, so the word loyalty and filial piety comes first. Mi Li is so filial that, even though he is an ordinary person, he is also famous for 100 miles. He is a living moral benchmark and a model star in the area around Anning Prefecture. He buried his son for his mother, but failed to save his mother in the end. The disaster of the erosion rain was okay, but the subsequent tree man mutation was simply not something a human could withstand. Today, Mi Li has become a disaster victim. However, he is not an ordinary disaster victim. He now has a brand new identity, team leader. Today, if you join my Huayan club, you will be my Mi Li's family. I, Mi Li, will never treat any of my family members unfairly. This 35-year-old man is thin, but his eyes are very bright. His tone is neither passionate nor fanatical, and everyone can read something called sincerity from it. There is a unique magic that is convincing. We all lost our original homes, but now we are together. We are a brand new family. We are all family members who help each other, brothers and sisters, and beloved relatives and friends. Everyone gathered in a circle and listened quietly to Mi Li's speech in plain language. After the speech, it was the speech of the members who joined the club, telling about their own sufferings and their happiness in the club. Then there was a ceremony. Under the auspices of Mi Li, an initiation ceremony was held for every new member who entered the Huayan club. Everyone would happily gather around the new members, full of enthusiasm. This strange family was quietly growing in a place that no one could see. Chen Jing might be the first superior to contact them. After successfully persuading Hua Qingsha, and with the help of Hua Qingsha, persuading the elders of the clan, he went down the mountain alone and swaggered towards the direction of the city. When he arrived outside the city, he prepared to find the ordinary Chen family to inquire about the news first. It might be that he was dressed too simply, or it might be that his skin was a little rough due to the wind and sun from farming. He didn't know why he had achieved success in his cultivation, but he didn't transform into a handsome guy as he imagined. In short, if he stood in the crowd at this time, no one would object to saying that he was just a passerby. As soon as Chen Jing arrived at the outermost shanty town of disaster victims, someone came up to chat with him. "Little brother, did you just escape from outside?" The person who came was a warm and thin tall young man. He said, "You have come to the right place. This is the territory of Ahuoyan Association. Outside the city, only the East District managed by the Chen family and the West District of Ahuoyan Association are peaceful places. Stay here. Ahuoyan Association will not bully outsiders. Thank you, I have a place to go." Chen Jing looked at the other person up and down, and was a little surprised that the thin tall man looked weak, but so energetic. The thin tall man nodded. "You have a place to go, that's great. If you don't have a place to go, you can come to the Huoyan Association at any time." Yeah. Chen Jing still maintained his usual pace, and wandered in the West District under the leadership of the Huoyan Association. He saw that everyone here was very excited. Although they were obviously hungry, tired and sick, they looked full of energy. Everyone he saw had a surprising amount of happiness in their eyes, as if they were full of infinite confidence in life. And they had a good relationship with each other, and were very happy. They called each other brothers and sisters, as if they were a family. How did they do that? Chen Jing tried to analyze it, but he couldn't figure out where this religious sense of deja vu came from. The style of the painting was not right. Finally, he passed through the west of the city, and came to the outer city. Today's outer city is also tense, and Chen Jing can no longer find the busy and calm appearance when he used to go there. Back to the Chen mansion. Chen Jing called the steward and asked about the surrounding things. The steward was also a member of the Chen family, but he was an ordinary Chen family. He said, "I don't understand the things in the cultivation world. I only know some mundane things." "It's just mundane things. Just say whatever you think of." Then Chen Jing heard a bunch of messy things. Sum it up in one sentence. Various unknown small forces, violent conflicts and non-violent conflicts. The steward felt embarrassed as he spoke, because he could clearly feel that the second young master was bored and a little impatient, but he didn't stop, so he could only pour out all the beans. Looking at the second young master's thinking, he couldn't help but sigh that the second young master was really patient. He listened even if he didn't want to listen, and he would think after listening. Chen Jing knocked on the table and said, "Tell the people below not to be too domineering, but they don't have to restrain themselves. If you encounter something, as long as you are right, do it. If there are obstacles, you can come to me, and I will take the lead." He came to be the target, so of course he had to make something happen, and this was just to send a signal. All eyes, look at me. "But second young master, now there is a big chaos, you should act cautiously." The steward couldn't help but advise. The Chen family still has some capital, so they can hold on for now, but look outside. How many families have lost their land and roots? How can you expect them to hold on? We are all locked in a cage, and sooner or later we will have to fight, and only when the fight is settled, can there be peace again. Although one sentence can make the steward arrange things. But Chen Jing still doesn't mind explaining a little. After all, he is still young, and even with the blessing of the status of a cultivator, it can't make up for the flaws of human nature. The steward kindly reminded you, and you replied with a "Are you teaching me how to do things?" It's cool, and you experience the joy of exercising power. As a result, the steward thought you were reckless, and it's okay to say a few words in your heart, but it's really a loss to affect the efficiency of work, so why bother? By the way, is there any porridge today? Second young master, it's about to start. Then I'll go over first. I brought some good things today, to give the victims a snack. Chen Jing patted his waist, where there was a full storage bag of leeks. Chapter 44 The Value of Human Beings. Chen Jing once had such a doubt. In a world with super strong individuals, what is the use of mortals? That's right. What is the meaning of these ordinary people in the cultivation world? Is it necessary for the Qingnang sect to protect ordinary people? On Earth, The ancient dynasties protected the people because they could get the people's fat and blood from the people, and they were the main source of economic creation. But the people in the cultivation world seemed to be out of touch with the cultivation world. Chen Jing felt that this should not only be his own doubt, but also the doubt deep in the hearts of many practitioners, because the current situation can already show the attitude of practitioners towards ordinary people. The wealthy families saw ordinary people being slaughtered and turned a blind eye. The practitioners of small families only cared about the ordinary people who were their blood relatives. There were a lot of ordinary people outside the city who had no way out and were thrown here with almost no decent management. This clearly reflects the attitude of the practitioners. The only charity they gave was probably because, for most generations, everyone had a slight kinship, or because it would be difficult to explain to the King Nang sect if all the ordinary people died, so they just scattered some fodder, or because they were all human beings, they felt sympathy for their fellow tribesmen. As a young man who had suffered from the beatings of society, Chen Jing was more inclined to judge whether a thing was necessary to exist from the perspective of value. He tried to find the value of ordinary people. Note that this value is subjective, and it is the value of ordinary people for those who have the right to control ordinary people. The value of the Chen family to the wealthy families is a continuous contribution of resources. So what is the value of ordinary people to practitioners? What does it provide as a proof of survival? It can't be, because it is easier to have children with ordinary people. Little Master Chen. Little Master Chen is back. How is Little Master Chen these days? Chen Jing was still thinking about this question, and unknowingly he had reached the outside of the city, and then he saw a pair of eyes full of surprise and gratitude focusing on him. He suddenly felt inexplicably guilty. I'm a spiritual plant husband in this life, and a worker in the previous life. Although I have entered the two great ways of cultivation and physics respectively, it does not affect the fact that I'm a beast of burden in both lives. At this time, just because there are lower classes than me, I began to use the thinking of the superiors and use value to measure the group I was born into. I seem to look down on people from the bottom of my heart. People's ideals, dignity, emotions, and the meaning of life are completely linked to value. Don't vegetables deserve to play? Should I die if I have no value? What a bastard idea. Chen Jing shook off the messy thoughts in his mind. He waved his hand to let the Chen family members who were setting up the pot move away, sat in front of the big pot, took out the storage bag, and took a handful of washed and cut spiritual plant leeks. Spices are more or less valuable, and valuable means scarcity. Leeks have their own fragrance, which is undoubtedly a delicacy for the common people in this era. Master Chen is here to add to the meal. Fragrant. Everyone was delighted. The ordinary Chen family members on the side couldn't help but say, this is not an ordinary leek, but a spiritual plant. Even my blood relatives have only eaten it for a short time. The second young master is kind and brought some for you. What? Everyone couldn't believe it. They knew the value of spiritual plants very well. You know, going into the mountains to collect wild spiritual plants, spiritual medicines and other spiritual objects, and then selling them to the masters in the city at a high price, can be said to be one of the most cost-effective businesses. As for eating it yourself, come on, thousands or even tens of thousands of yuan for a good meal. What kind of family is that? Impossible. Everyone's first reaction was that this was impossible. How could a spiritual object enter their mouths? The Chen family member said again. The second young master mixed spiritual rice into the rice when he gave out porridge before. Otherwise, why did you not get sick for a few days after eating it? Cough. Chen Jing coughed and interrupted what the other party said. It was to collect merits and wishes before. So I just need to do things sincerely, and it is a bit utilitarian to emphasize that spiritual rice is added to the porridge. Not only did he not say it, he also did not allow other members of the Chen family to say it publicly among the disaster victims. This kid must have been holding it in for a long time. When he saw Chen Jing start to publicly throw money, he thought he didn't need to pretend anymore and just showed his cards. So he couldn't wait to spill it out. I can only say that fortunately, Chen had already collected all the merits and wishes. I, Chen Jing, do things either without doing them or doing them well. Chen Jing looked at the people who suddenly fell silent and said, I can still distribute a few spiritual plants. so it's not a big deal. Master Chen, we are not ungrateful people, but... A man stood up and clenched his fists, as if something was stuck in his throat. The gap was so big that, even if he wanted to say that he was willing to work like a cow or a horse to repay, it would be like hitting the snake with a stick, and he would get an inch further. If you are grateful, then live a good life, and don't let my good deeds be in vain. Chen Jing waved his hand. After distributing porridge, he began to inspect the infrastructure work of the victims. He did not let everyone sit idle. He had arranged for building houses, repairing roads, reclaiming farmland, building canals, and other matters. Being able to eat, have something to do, and get money can make people feel at ease. But Chen Jing didn't know what to do next. When everything is over, everyone will go back to their own homes, or settle down nearby to form an outer city of the outer city. When Chen Jing inspected, he found that in just a few months, the things he had roughly planned had actually taken shape. Mulberry fields and vineyards, chickens, and dogs can be heard. Those who build roads, and those who build houses. It looks like a large-scale infrastructure construction, and everything is in ruins. Chen Jing walked in front with his hands behind his back like a little leader. He subconsciously touched his head and felt that he was missing a white helmet. What is this place for? He coughed and pointed to a certain place and asked, Master Chen, this is the centralized toilet you mentioned. It's true. With this thing, it's not easy to step on shit on the road. The local gang leader, Boss Wang, acted as a guide at this time to answer Chen Jing's questions. Well, if this toilet is not cleaned, it is easy to cause epidemics. It's okay, it's all good fertilizer, and they are rushing to clean it. Really? Chen Jing went in to take a look. It was smelly and hurried out. What about this? Whose mansion is built here, occupying such a large area? This is the university you mentioned. Master Chen, because of the lack of good beams, we can only make a model for now. It should have been just mentioned at the time, not that it had to be built. The school is useless at this stage. It is really the fate of the expressor to be misunderstood. Okay, it's built. It can always be used. After taking a look, Chen Jing was generally satisfied. This infrastructure construction ability is really amazing, or perhaps because the tools are in place, all the important things have been completed, and the unimportant things have also been roughly done. So he took out the map, pointed and proposed new ideas. By the way, are the resources enough? Chen Jing asked the manager. Not enough. The manager smiled bitterly. With so many disaster victims and such a big project, it all depends on how the ordinary Chen family can support it. Now a lot of family assets have been spent. If it weren't for the King Niu Mountain's direct lineage, that has been spending a lot of money recently, even if it is the main family, it can't expect the ordinary lineages to cooperate so well. Chen Jing smiled. Not enough. Don't worry, the plan remains unchanged. There are many wealthy families. Chapter 45, Justice. After the disaster, the surroundings of Anning Prefecture were full of uninhabited villages of all sizes. It was difficult for ordinary people to keep these hard-earned properties, so they just happened to become temporary residences for practitioners who also fled. Sink the key into the dungeon, embrace the Yuan and guard the one. When Jing Lian found Lin Zhu was teaching his 10-year-old son in the courtyard. Lin Zhu was tall and burly, standing with his hands behind his back, straight as a pine tree, with a dignified aura. Seeing such a practitioner with more vigorous blood and energy, there was no need to hesitate. The other party was mostly a practitioner who entered the Tao through martial arts, and had superb martial arts. The first realm on the road of cultivation, the soul condensation stage, requires some talent, and more continuous and gentle spiritual resources. What should I do if I don't have resources? Well, try this method of entering the Tao through martial arts at a civilian price, which focuses on the ultimate cost effectiveness. By polishing the body, strengthening the physique, and nourishing the internal breath, you can directly skip the soul condensation stage and reach the Tankyo stage. After all, the first lower Danshan spiritual orifice in the Tankyo period is the place where the essence is stored, so as to refine the essence into ki. At this point, it can be said that they have reached the same destination through different paths. However, it is obvious that entering the Dao through martial arts is at a disadvantage. This method tests talent more than the soul enriching method. After all, soul enriching is done by eating and drinking. It takes 10 years of hard practice to practice martial arts. In addition to the talent of bones, perseverance and mental talent are even more rare. It takes more talent and time, but entering the Dao through martial arts has not been eliminated by the times, because it has an excellent advantage. Saving money. You don't need half a cent of spiritual objects. Of course, it's better to have them, but if you don't have them, ordinary fish and meat will do. Martial arts can be said to be the only way for ordinary people to practice. In addition, martial arts practitioners are often better at fighting than normal soul enriching practitioners, and they have comprehensive advantages in will, reaction, experience, and skills. They are almost not seen in the capital city, but there are martial arts halls everywhere in the surrounding counties. Lin Zhu is a martial arts master from the county town. His family has run a martial arts hall for generations, and he has countless disciples. Although only a few of the many disciples can enter the Dao through martial arts, it is not important. The tuition fees, provided by the disciples, can make the Lin family live a rich life, with thousands of acres of fertile land, and generations can enter the Dao through martial arts. Before the mutated tree man ravaged, the Lin family was also one of the major forces in the county, and several martial artists of the Lin family were also well-known figures on the list of masters in the surrounding area. After the mutated tree man, the Lin family was gone. Only he fled with his only son, and came to an uninhabited village around the city to settle down temporarily. Lin Zhu looked at his son. Although he could see that his son had tried very hard, the most basic things were still a mess. He had practiced martial arts since he was a child and was influenced by the martial arts hall, but he looked like this. His talent was extremely poor. If it was in the past, it would not matter. If you don't have enough talent, you can make up for it with gold and silver, and various medicinal baths and food supplements. You can train a pig to enter the Dao. But now, the family business has been lost and everything is gone. At this rate, it is very difficult to enter the Dao before the blood and ki decline in a decade. Brother Lin, let's go. Jing Lian took a look. Wait for your father to come back. Don't be lazy. Lin Zhu said this sternly, turned around and left here with Jing Lian, but in the look back, there was a deep expectation. The Lin family cannot die in his hands. The martial arts hall is gone, and the county town will be difficult to rebuild for a while. What should I do if my son is so disappointing? Make up for it. If he seizes the spiritual fields and spiritual objects, he will have a family business again. Only with a family business can it be passed down and converted into a spiritual cultivation method. With the spiritual method, it doesn't matter if his son's martial arts talent is bad. He couldn't rob before. The vassal families outside the city are all pigs raised by the wealthy families. The wealthy families have to keep these pigs and slowly cut the meat and bleed them. Now, but we have to seize the opportunity, eat those pigs, while the wealthy families are too busy, and then replace those pigs. With Brother Lin, Chen Jing is nothing to worry about. Jing Lian said lightly. Lin has no record of killing 8 people by himself. Why pretend to be humble? You martial artists have always looked down on us spiritual planters who can only bury our heads in farming. I believe that in your eyes, this record is nothing more than proof that spiritual planters have no means and can be easily controlled. Lin Zhu didn't say anything. That's what he thought. 1 against 8? He can beat 10 of these noobs. Jing Lian said, I don't care what you think. In this ambush, you will be the vanguard. If you can kill Chen Jing alone, King Niu Mountain of the Chen family will belong to you, and the floating wealth will belong to us. If there are really rare treasures, we will talk about it later. As Brother Jing said. Lin Zhu nodded. He was looking for a foundation, so even though he knew that the Chen family was rich, he pretended not to take a penny and had a good attitude. It's useless to want to take it. Others won't cooperate. You can't kill your teammates. The wealthy family just has no time to take care of the vassals' affairs for the time being, which doesn't mean they won't settle accounts later. If you kill a pig, you have to bear the loss of that pig. If you kill all the pigs, you can only pay for 1 pig. It depends on whether the wealthy family will do anything to you. Of course, it is still a bit far-fetched to consider these. We have to kill Chen Jing first, but Lin Zhu thinks it is not a big problem. This wave of business is simply a blood profit. Jing Lian said, let me remind you that Chen Jing seems to be fearless. He has been extorting us, the secular branches, in various names in recent days. He acts ostentatiously. Extortion? Lin Zhu was shocked and said, why does he want secular property? Distributed to the victims. Oh. Lin Zhu breathed a sigh of relief. He thought Chen Jing was going to open a martial arts school. Generally speaking, only martial arts practitioners care more about secular property. If so, it means that Chen Jing is in the same industry, and there will be a fierce fight. After careful questioning, it turned out that he was just being stupid, so it was okay. Jing Lian took Lin Zhu to the city, and then called other helpers. Each of them affixed a breath-retaining talisman, a disguise talisman, etc., and approached Chen Jing. It's not easy to take action in the city, so we'll follow him. Chen Jing will go outside the city several times a day, and he'll take action according to my instructions. Jing Lian said. The alliance to destroy Chen followed Chen Jing. This tracking seemed easy, but in fact it was not difficult at all, because there were too many people following Chen Jing at this time, and there were many practitioners who followed Chen Jing openly, mainly watching and eating melons. Because at this time, Chen Jing was leading everyone to extort. If you have grievances or grudges, beat the drum. Chen Jing sat at the gate of the secular branch of the Jing family. The younger brothers behind him brought a big drum and set it at the door of the family, and then sat on the chair with a big horse and a golden knife. Not long after, an old man with a sloping foot came to beat the drum, crying loudly about who in the Jing family bullied him, when, and because of what. The matter was not big, and there was no case that angered the heavens and the people. Because this was a case of riding a horse to injure people. Outer City Bingzi District, Shuhuifang Street, Jing Family Courtyard, Jingzigay, riding a horse in the city and causing disability, and hit and run. According to Article 99 of the Road Traffic Safety Regulations, a fine of 100 taels of silver, revocation of the horse riding license, and compensation to the victim according to the degree of injury. You broke someone's leg, the old man's medical expenses, loss of work allowance, nursing allowance, hospitalization food allowance. Chen Jing took out a small notebook and slowly muttered all kinds of incomprehensible words. The listeners were confused and felt that they were well organized. It was messy but meaningful. Of course, everyone still cared about the last sentence. The total fine amount is 2024 taels of silver. Chen Jing tore off the page of paper in the small notebook that was full of terms and fines and threw it away. With the blessing of the object control technique, the paper was accurate. Under the gaze of everyone, it was affixed to the door of the Jing family with a snap. Fine. The onlookers shouted excitedly. Chapter 46. Brother, close combat? The alliance to destroy Chen. Everyone was silent. Jing Lian's face heated up, and he said, the child of the Chen family is making trouble out of nothing, and bullying others too much. Today, I will make him die without a burial place. Die without a burial place. He used to just hear people from the branch complaining that Chen Jing was looking for trouble, but he didn't experience it himself. Now he was furious. It's just a leg of an ordinary person. It's not broken yet. Is it worth 1,000 taels of silver? In Jing Lian's eyes, this is not blackmail. It's pure naked humiliation, without any other meaning. Brother Jing, calm down. Don't reveal your murderous intent. Someone comforted him immediately. Who? Jing Lian took deep breaths to cool himself down. In another place, also going out to watch the excitement was the Yang family from the inner city. It was Yang Huayan. In order to prevent her father's affairs from being accidentally exposed and causing accidents, she quietly hid out before the inner city war broke out. It happened that she saw Chen Jing carrying a big drum to seek justice everywhere these days. Yang Huayan crossed her arms and watched all this with a cold look in her eyes. The outer city is interesting. I have never heard of such a person. Then she withdrew her gaze indifferently, but focused her attention on hearing. After Chen Jing forcibly collected the fine, she still looked calm and quickly dropped the copper coins in her hand, left the restaurant, and followed the team. When Chen Jing set up the stall again, she found a place with a good view and stood still. Here, the scenery is unique. Yang Huayan, dressed in white, stood on the eaves of a mansion, looking up at the blue sky and clouds. Looking at it, she turned her eyes away inadvertently. You have a dangerous idea. I also have a complete set of criminal law, civil law, traffic law, and marriage law. Fine. Chen Jing tore off the ticket amid the cheers of the crowd. It was getting dark, and Chen Jing returned with a full load. Although it was a fine, in fact, there was no such a lot of silver. It was converted into wood, stone, tools, food and other materials, and packed and taken away. The outer city is divided into 4 areas, A, B, C, and D. Area A is the extension of the inner city's power, and the stewards of various noble families are entrenched here. Area B belongs to the cultivation families such as the Chen family. Area C is the secular branch of the cultivation family. Area D is everything except the above. Although this group has a large number of people, it occupies the least resources. They watched excitedly, watching the Chen family move out all kinds of supplies in the high wild courtyards. Even Chen Jing was a little shocked. When he was punished, he had already added zeros to the back, but he didn't feel that it had much impact on the treasure house of these secular families. The long years of peace have made people fat pigs. This is just the outer city, and it's just the secular branch of the cultivation family in the outer city, and it's so fat. It's unbelievable that there is still a disaster outside. Forget it. If I think about it, the Chen family is also quite fat. The master is actually me. Chen Jing shook his head and walked away leisurely along the field ridges outside the city, towards the direction of the setting sun. It was behind him. The long-time follower of the Chen killing alliance has made all preparations. Jing Lian said, this boy often wanders around in the wild, but he was able to kill 8 monks of the same realm last time. He must not be as careless as he seems. Get ready to fight. Be careful of his flying sword. Flying sword? Haha, the flying sword controlled by the object control technique will be out of control and suffer backlash when it is hit by a huge force. Lin Zu's eyes were sharp. In the storage bag, a dark spiritual weapon spear fell into his hand. The ancestor of the Lin family used this spear to establish the Lin family martial arts hall, and the descendants of the Lin family use this spear to resist foreign enemies and expand the family business. Now, I will use this spear again to lead the Lin family out of the trough and create glory again. Die, kid. Lin Zu's whole body aura burst out, breaking through the suppression of the breath-retaining talisman. The rolling blood and spiritual power mixed and soared into the sky. But in an instant, the distance of hundreds of steps was quickly shortened, and he was like a flaming red meteor, smashing towards the seemingly defenseless Chen Jing. Bang! Chen Jing was easily smashed. The feeling is wrong. Lin Zu immediately retracted his strength, bursting into attack in the previous second, and defending in the next second. He switched between offense and defense freely, showing his extraordinary control and combat quality. Suddenly, with a whoosh, a glimmer of light lit up in the bushes under his feet, and attacked in an instant. Lin Zu turned his wrist, poured all his strength into his body, condensed it into the tip of the gun, and gently lifted it, knocking the flying sword away. Ding! The sound of metal clashing shocked people's eardrums. The voice sounded from the side. Chen Jing, who was standing on the giant turtle, touched his chin. Is this a cultivator who entered the Tao through martial arts? He is indeed extraordinary and more powerful than the straw man of my senior sister. Your illusion is not bad either, Lin Zu said. At this time, he should have attacked like a storm and suppressed the opponent. But he had just been fooled by an illusion. If it weren't for his solid basic skills, someone else would have been cut by the flying sword. So when Chen Jing appeared, he didn't dare to attack. He was afraid that it was another illusion. Chen Jing sat on the back of the phantom turtle, stared at the sturdy middle-aged man for a moment, and said, "Don't you want to come? Then let me take over." After that, he stretched out his hand and grasped it, and the flying sword swept back. With a flick of his fingertips, the streamer was like a flash of light. This sword was faster than the last time. However, Lin Zu just touched it casually and broke the sword. You are pretending, and you still want to deceive me? This sword was just an illusion, but he saw through it. The second sword that Chen Jing really hid behind came quietly from the side and back, but because it was seen through in advance, it was once again picked up by Lin Zu's spear tip. Lin Zu sneered. It's still an illusion. Awesome. The same trick doesn't work so soon. The figure sitting on the back of the phantom turtle slowly dissipated. At the third position, Chen Jing appeared again, standing on the bluestone. At this time, the aura he exuded was very obvious, and his spiritual orifices were fully activated, and the spiritual power around him fluctuated. The flying sword that was bounced away also fell back into his palm, with its sharp edge pointed directly at Lin Zu. Then let's fight head on, how about it? How dare you show up in front of me? Lin Zu's eyes flashed with excitement. He couldn't tell that the original illusion was fake, nor could he be sure that it was real, so he treated it as fake. But now he can really see that Chen Jing in front of him is real. Chen Jing smiled and said nothing, pretending. Lin Zu was not afraid at all. He would not be suspicious and lose his composure because of the other party's expression and demeanor. After years of martial arts practice, he had already honed his basic confidence in grasping the situation bit by bit. This wave is real. Wait until I blow your dog head up and see what you can pretend with. He stepped on the ground, and the long spear was like a rainbow, and he rushed towards Chen Jing in an instant, but Chen Jing did not dodge, and decisively returned a sword, as if he wanted to die together. A trace of admiration flashed through Lin Zu's heart. Admiration for his opponent. This life-changing blow forced him to doubt again, wondering if the person standing in front of him was a real person, because if he was a real person, how could he dare to fight so desperately? In this moment, any hesitation would result in this blow being in vain, and then falling into a disadvantage. Unfortunately, Lin Zu, was not an ordinary person. In this blow, he would not give up attacking or defending. Lin Zu shook his spear, like a dragon swinging its tail, and with a bang, the flying sword was hit hard, and flew to the horizon, and turned into a meteor. He chose to hit the flying sword. A flying sword controlled by the object control technique only needs to be hit hard. The consequence of such a full strength strike with a long spear is that it can't recover, commonly known as too long backswing. If you make a mistake in judgment, you will be dead if you are caught in the backswing. But he was right. Chen Jing, whose flying sword was knocked away, showed a painful look. But Lin Zu felt cold in his heart. Why does that flying sword feel so light? It's true, but not that true. Hehehe. Chen Jing in front of him gritted his teeth and showed a triumphant grin. With a puff, his clothes burst open, revealing a perfect, sturdy, and strong body. The amazing energy and blood power rose steadily, rising like a wolf smoke rising straight into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he changed from a cultivator of the soul-enriching path to a perfect martial arts cultivator. Spiritual orifices communicate with God's martial arts true body. Transform all spiritual power into essence, energy, and blood, and the body is comparable to that of a demon. Brother Leo, I heard that you want to fight in close combat? Chapter 47, Survive. The fragile mage turned into a muscular man in a second. His strong masculine blood rushed towards him, as if facing a blazing furnace. Lin Zu was stunned. But Chen Jing had no intention of talking nonsense with him. He seized the gap after the opponent's heavy attack. He stepped forward and clenched his fist and smashed it. The fist was aimed at the forehead, and the strong wind tore through the air, causing Lin Zu's hairband to break open, and his long hair to tear his scalp backwards. Seeing that the punch was about to explode his head, from a distance, 3 consecutive sword lights flew over, pointing at the vital points. Chen Jing realized that something was wrong, so he had to hastily retract the punch and slapped him away. The snap sound was very loud and extremely insulting, but the damage was not enough. Lin Zu rolled away, blocking with his spear in front, and survived. Chen Jing turned around and faced the 3 flying swords, but he did not dare to be careless. His strong body shrank in an instant, shook on the spot, and exploded into a ball of white mist, covering himself and Lin Zu together. Cloud and smoke illusion, smoke bomb mode. The flying sword that was galloping lost its target and returned. Jing Lian frowned and said, the 8 people who died in Chen Jing's hands before only had traces of flying swords on their bodies. I thought Chen Jing was just a very strong flying sword, but I never thought that his flying sword was ordinary, but it was an illusion, strange and unpredictable. And the blood and ki just now, what kind of magic is it? Can it create such a physique? Jing Lian, the spiritual consciousness can't penetrate the white fog, and it's difficult for us to support the flying sword. should we go in and join the battle? The Wang family cultivator next to him asked. No need, I can see clearly that when the white fog dispersed, Chen Jing's blood and ki fell back. I guess it's difficult for him to release magic when he is a martial arts body, and Linzu is prepared, so he should be able to take him down. Jing Lian said. Brother Jing is right. Huh. Not good. A group of 3 people were watching from a distance. Suddenly, they saw a stream of extremely red light appearing at the edge of the white fog. The stream of light transformed into a giant bat burning with flames, flapping its wings, and flying towards the 3 people. Wherever the firebird passed, the grass and trees were all burned, and the earth was steaming and cracking. Jing Lian's eyes widened in disbelief. Oh no, that's the 3rd level flying sword of the old man of the Yang family. A blood-red danger seemed to appear in his heart. Boom! Exclamation mark. The firebird came at a rapid speed, bringing a great threat. Jing Lian's heart was pounding wildly. He took out a bunch of talismans from his storage bag and triggered them all. His body gradually became transparent and slowly merged into the ground. He wanted to withdraw and avoid its sharp edge. However, the fierce flaming bird actually destroyed the talismans thrown by the 3 people with great ease and fell at their feet unstoppably. Jing Lian and the other 2 shouted in fear and were immediately drowned by a louder explosion. The huge flames and the entire ground were blown into powder, and the magma-like flames shot up into the sky, forming a pillar of fire that was a circle larger than a basketball court, and it was connected with the sunset glow on the horizon. The mortals in the eastern part of the city raised their heads one after another, their pupils reflecting the fire that connected the sky and the earth in the distance, and they were terrified. In the white fog, Linzu was fighting with Chen Jing. The martial arts monk who had stabilized his position showed extremely powerful fighting ability at this time, blowing up one phantom turtle after another and biting Chen Jing tightly, and the offensive continued. Chen Jing was completely at a disadvantage in the fog, rolling and crawling, creating countless illusions, but he was always quickly seen through by Linzu. In a short moment, danger was everywhere. You can't escape. Linzu was like a madman, and his gun was as swift as rain, determined to kill Chen Jing with a set of combos. Suddenly, a terrifying spiritual power wave exploded not far away, and it seemed that the screams of Jing Lian and others were faintly heard. And Chen Jing, who had been fleeing, suddenly stopped, and the embarrassment on his face was put away, and a playful smile turned into a playful smile. Guess what happened outside? You have reinforcement. Linzu was startled. His eyes cleared up a bit. It's not reinforcement. Why not take a closer look? Am I really Mario self? In Linzu's increasingly unbelievable eyes, the Chen Jing who had been fighting with him for a while gradually became illusory, and after saying this, he completely disappeared. He stabbed with his gun, and it landed in the air, without any touch. Impossible. How could I have been fighting your illusion all the time? Impossible. Linzu's hand holding the spear trembled slightly, and he suddenly looked back. The white fog slowly pulled away, and Chen Jing appeared in the position where he appeared the second time, sitting on the phantom turtle without moving. In an instant, he understood everything. Chen Jing's whereabouts on the surface have always been maintained by illusions used to fish. When he broke the opponent's first illusion, the second time it appeared was his real body, but he did not attack because he suspected that it was still an illusion. The opponent also took advantage of his psychology and took the initiative to fade his real body, creating an illusion that you have seen through it again, and then released the third illusion. How could there be such an illusion? Mirror image, illusion. It's impossible to do it. Linzu's confidence cracked. It's okay if the information doesn't match. After all, anyone can hide a hand, but the opponent who has been fighting for so long is still an illusion, which undoubtedly makes him realize that he has been played by you. Applause from beginning to end and defeated completely. If I were really easy to deal with, how could I wait for a master like you to come? Chen Jing is still undermining the opponent's confidence. As for why illusions can really fight, originally, it couldn't, but after his spiritual orifice became divine, he got 3 innate abilities, corresponding to spirit, energy and spirit respectively. Jing, called the martial art's true body, can transform spiritual power into physical strength. Ki, called the Sea of Water, is used to make his spiritual power several times that of the same realm, making him a durable man. Shen, called the Incarnation of Divine Consciousness, is used to condense a short-lived incarnation with half of his own strength. That's why the third illusion is so real and deceived everyone. Chen Jing's original body has been standing in place watching the Divine Consciousness incarnation fight with Lin Zu, and then guarding against the possible second wave of ambush. Sure enough, Jing Lian and others came. I wanted to wait a little longer, but Lin Zu is really strong. If I wait any longer, the Divine Consciousness incarnation can't hold on, so I can only wipe out Jing Lian and the other two. That attack was made with the new gift from my old father, the Chili Sword. The third level flying sword comes with magic, the magic of the Zhuan Iron period. A full strength attack is not something that an ordinary Tankyo period can resist. If the opponent is prepared, he may run away, but Chen Jing is invisible and sneaks next to him, so there is no suspense. The deceased will be cremated and buried on the spot, providing a one-stop funeral service, which is considerate and in place. Come on, I will only use one sword. If you can block it, I will let you go. Chen Jing summoned the Chili Sword, and the third level flying sword was fully activated. The spiritual power turned into a huge red flame firebird, circling and dancing vividly, and the terrifying pressure hung above his head. Gurgle. Lin Zu's hand holding the gun was trembling. At this moment, he finally realized that the Lin family's generations of inheritance would be cut off in his hands. He turned his head slightly and looked in one direction. There, his son was still practicing hard, waiting for him to go back. Family foundation? Lin Zu closed his eyes in pain. Only then did he realize that he was lucky to survive with his son and survive in the chaos. Why should he be greedy and must think about those things that have been lost instead of cherishing the present? The son has already lost his home and is about to lose his last father. When Lin Zu thought of this, he was filled with pain, self-blame, regret, and other emotions, which suppressed his shattered confidence and suppressed fear. He took a deep breath, and his trembling hand calmed down. He slowly raised the spear, and his spirit and energy gathered and united in an instant, climbing to the peak again. This shot was only to return home alive. Please. Chapter 48. Occasionally, seeing Lin Zu's expression change, his whole aura changed. Chen Jing thought that the other party had exploded or had a breakthrough in the battle. But after careful observation, the other party's aura did not seem to change much, but became much more stable, without the intention of becoming stronger instantly. So Chen Jing drew a sword. He did not use the red glass sword. The red glass sword was hanging above his head. As a backup and defense, he still used the second grade flying sword. Everyone has a competitive and combative heart. As a hunter seeking victory, he should have taken advantage of his illness to kill him, but his flying sword was bounced off by the spear several times, which made him somewhat unconvinced. Course warrior, look at the sword. Lin Zu concentrated his attention and locked his sight on the flying sword. He immediately felt the difference of this sword. The first time the flying sword stabbed at him, it was a sneak attack. Although the murderous intent was fierce, it was not enough. The second sword was still a sneak attack, using illusion as a cover and the real sword as a killing move, but the feeling was the same as the first sword. The third sword was a sword fight. Similar to the previous one, that sword was also a fake move, and the subsequent martial arts real body was the real move. The three flying swords were all killing moves that combined the real and the fake. The purpose was very strong, just to kill people. Until this sword, the sword was upright and bright, showing its style. As a warrior, Lin Zu realized what Chen Jing was thinking at this time. Let's fight. After all, we are young. Lin Zu's blood boiled, and it seemed that he had also found the time when he was young to challenge the strong and enjoy the fun of fighting. Come on, he shouted. The long spear in his hand was like a swimming dragon, and the tip of the spear had a cold light, hitting the center of the flying sword. There was a crisp sound. The ripples of spiritual power fluctuated violently, to the point where the naked eye could detect it, but the long spear and the flying sword seemed to be frozen, and did not move at all. Lin Zu's eyes were surprised, admired, and finally disappointed. Click. The tip of the spear suddenly disappeared, and then, with several crisp sounds, the spear broke into several pieces. Puff. The The flying sword passed through the body, but it was not stained with blood, and returned to Chen Jing's hand happily. You have a superior sword controlling method. You can defeat me head on. Lin Zu covered his heart that was bleeding and said bitterly, but my enemy is you, but not only you. After Chen Jing finished speaking, his figure faded away. Maybe he can have a good fight with others in the future, but now, he can only be particular occasionally. Most of the time, he still has to ambush layer by layer and win first. Lin Zu calculated the remaining time, staggered, and returned to the nameless deserted village. Seeing this dull sun again, for some reason, he felt particularly kind. The previous dissatisfaction, anger, and so on with his son's stupidity seemed unimportant. He waved his hand, and seeing his son cautiously, waiting to be scolded, he couldn't help but feel that he owed too much. Come, talk to your father, you don't need to practice today. Dad? The son was surprised. Chen Jing followed behind with a cautious style, thinking that he could catch some fish that slipped through the net and find the other party's gang by following the clues. But he didn't expect that he would see Lin Zu talking to his son all night. It seemed that the father and son were talking for the first time in their lives, and they had endless topics to talk about. Lin Zu listened to his son's worries and showed unprecedented patience. Lin Zu's attitude also made his son seem to be cured of everything, and he became cheerful. Perhaps the only thing that puzzled Xiaojie was why his father touched his head and said earnestly, "Don't take revenge. It is this world that killed your father." Chen Jing put away the sword he was holding. I hope Xiaojie can understand his father's last good intentions. He looked at the dawning sky and calculated in his heart. The Jing family has troubled me many times, right? The Chen family's strategy is to defend and counterattack. If we don't take action at this time, won't we just defend without counterattack? Chen Jing did not return to the capital. Instead, he returned alone to the foot of King Niu Mountain, not far from the Hualien Lake. This is the residence of the Jing family. Xiaoman seems to be born here. It's time for Xiaoman to return home in wealth. As Chen Jing spoke, the fog spread and slowly engulfed the Jing family's residence. However, what surprised him was there seemed to be no living people in the Jing family's residence. Jing Chan lowered his eyebrows and woke up from his sleep. Every time he changed into a tree man and regained his human form, he would experience a deep sleep. In the dream, he repeatedly experienced everything he had experienced in his childhood, and the nightmare did not dissipate. While he was sleeping, seeing that the mutated tree man disappeared, the Jing family returned and found the dead Jing Wang and the unconscious Jing Chan. They did not doubt Jing Chan, but took good care of him to wake him up. Not long after Jing Chan woke up, he saw a person who could not hide his sadness and came to hold his hand. "Sixth brother, second brother, second brother," the man cried. Jing Chan's heart moved, and he said, "Second brother? How is second brother dead? There are 6 sons in the Jing family now. The 5th, 4th, and eldest died one after another, and now the second son Jing Lian also lost his life in this operation. In a blink of an eye, only the relatively young 3rd son Jing Fu and the 6th son Jing Chan were left." Jing Chan was stunned. This time it was really not him who did it. Why did another brother die? He hurriedly asked about the whole story. It turned out that after the death of the eldest brother, the second brother Jing Lian suddenly became the heir. Jing Lian was a radical person and proposed to join forces to deal with the Chen family. His father agreed to this plan. He never thought that he would lose his life in this action. Jing Fu cried and said, "Father said that, now that the matter has failed, the Chen family will never give up. The other helpers have no foundation and can't be found in seclusion. But our Jing family is different. It is next to the Chen family. Father asked us to pack up and leave overnight. Family business, don't want it?" Jing Chan was stunned. No more. Although he was extremely reluctant, Jing Fu still said this. Jing Chan said, "Then how can my Jing family gain a foothold in the cultivation world?" Jing Fu said viciously, "Could it be that the surrounding families are all as hidden as the Chen family? Now that the old man of the Yang family is seriously ill, my father means that we should go to the Yang family, unite with others, and bite off a piece of meat from him." "Okay." Jing Chan nodded silently. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. I once had a family that loved me. You guys ran fast. Chen Jing didn't have any intention of killing all the members of the Jing family who ran away. If they didn't run away, he would kill them all. If they ran away, he wouldn't chase them. It's not that Chen is kind. Cutting the grass and eradicating the roots is an act that deserves specific analysis. The conflict between Chen Jing and the Jing family has nothing to do with hatred. There has never been any old grudges, and after experiencing this incident, there will still be no new hatred. What really needs to be killed is that there are irreconcilable contradictions between the two parties. For example, in the ancient power transfer, if you don't destroy the direct line of the previous generation of power, he will always keep the possibility of pushing back, so you have to do it thoroughly. In reality, love is a rare thing, and so is hatred. Compared with love, hatred, and grudges, firewood, rice, oil, and salt need to be considered first. By occupying this Hualien lake, the Chen family's assets have doubled. Chen Jing was happy. Why did Lin Zhu risk his life? He just hoped to get a piece of spiritual land and farm the land to pass on his family. Land means that more practitioners can be supported. Normally, a normal inherited cultivation family should have resource output to support 9 practitioners at the same time. That is, 3 people from the upper, middle and lower generations can practice. In other words, after occupying this land, the size of the Chen family's practitioners will double, and they will become the group that no one dares to mess with in the surrounding cultivation circles. Ideally, after 3 or 5 generations, or 7 or 8 generations of accumulation, the road to the next level will be opened up, ensuring that there will be masters of the Zuan period from generation to generation in the family, and even someone from generation to generation can enter the Qingnang sect. In this way, the inner city nobles will look up to you, give you due respect, and will not easily bully you, especially for being able to enter the Qingnang sect. You have people in the upper sect, and you have no people in the upper sect. That is a different treatment. Although the nobles will not refuse to take 70% of the exploitation, but think about it on the bright side, they will be more polite when exploiting, and give you a decent face. If you really want to break through the class, and reach the status of the nobles, you have to master the real technology. There is no future in farming. A natural disaster or accident could destroy even a powerful family if they are not careful. How can farmers cope with it? Only by refining elixirs, refining tools, making talismans, setting up formations, etc. Can sufficient resources be provided to supply a larger powerful family with stronger risk resistance? Of course. The above are just routine steps and do not include outliers like Chen Jing. Chen's farming has broken through the technical limitations, and it is no problem to say that he has learned alchemy. A better life is just around the corner. Let's go up the mountain to find my father and plan how to develop Hualien Lake. On King Niu Mountain, Chen Jing chewed leeks expressionlessly, and the other people at the table had similar expressions. After dinner, everyone drank a sip of water to wash away the taste. I don't know how Jinger is doing recently. Madame Liu put down her chopsticks and said with some concern, "It always feels a little lonely without Jinger to eat together. How about asking him to come back for a while?" Chen Jing shook his head. Jinger has been away from home for quite a while, but the leeks at home have not been eaten up yet. If he goes home now, according to his personality, he will definitely plant thousands of kilograms of leeks before leaving. The worry and kindness in Liu's eyes were swept away, and she nodded and said, "It's good for Jinger to gain experience outside. With his intelligence and the protection of the Qingnang sect, it should not be a problem." "No, second brother, no, second brother." The third sister looked horrified and shook her head repeatedly, leaving a residual shadow of her ponytail. "That's not good for the second brother." Only the eldest brother Chen Gu was a simple and honest man, and he muttered in a low voice, "Come on, eat more, don't let your second brother down." Chen Jing threw a bag of leek cakes in front of Chen Gu. The eldest brother smelled the familiar smell of leeks. His expression twisted slightly, and he said painfully, "Dad, I don't deserve this." At this time, a figure came with a clear shout. Dad, Mom, eldest brother and third sister, Chen Jing is back. Ha ha ha, ha, Chen Jing went home happily. Although he hadn't been away from home for too long, he inexplicably missed his family. He was also sure that his family would be very surprised to see him suddenly return home. As a result, as soon as he entered the house, bang, the third sister knocked over the bowl, opened her mouth wide with an expression as if she had seen a ghost, and trembled like a sieve. Puff. The old father who was drinking tea spit out a mouthful of tea and coughed continuously. Woo woo woo. The eldest brother Chen Gu was swallowing a cake and choked directly, beating his chest in pain. The old mother also smoothed her chest again and again, as if she was frightened. No, you don't welcome me so much. Chen Jing touched his head, and his heart was cold. A line of lyrics echoed in his mind. I should be under the car, not in the car. Chen Jing, who had lost the love of his father, mother, brother, and sister, was confused and didn't understand what was going on. But it didn't matter. He went up to the third sister and held her collar, wondering, are you saying bad things about me? Second brother, I know it's good for the body, but can you not grow chives? The third sister looked honest and begged for forgiveness. Chen Jing looked down at the table full of luxurious chives that he hadn't cleaned up in time, and he understood immediately. He sighed, you guys, you'd better live a good life. Today I want to recall the past and give you a lesson in ideology and politics. Do you know how grateful the disaster victims outside are after eating chives? Do you know? Bang. A stack of chive cakes was thrown in front of him. Chen Jing turned to look at his father, who had no expression on his face. He made a gesture of invitation and said, eat. Thank you, Dad. I don't eat leeks. Chen Jing leaned back slightly, pushed the leek cake away from his eyes, and said, okay, I understand everyone's feelings. I reflect that there are indeed some things that are good for the body, but bad for the mood. I will think about this issue carefully, and promise that this time, when I go home, I will never plant leeks on King Niu Mountain. Really? The third sister was surprised. Yes, I promise. Chen Jing affirmed loudly. Ha 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 ha, good son, my good son. Second brother. Wow, my favorite is a second brother. Back. The disappeared family affection is back. Chen Jing looked at everyone's tears of joy and felt deeply in his heart. Sure enough, his parents still loved him, and his brothers were also friendly. He cleared his throat and said, there is another good news to solemnly announce to everyone. Oh. After I came down the mountain, I gave out porridge every day to relieve the disaster, but was ambushed by a group of people led by the Jing family and the Jinglian. After my earnest teachings, the Jing family has deeply realized their mistakes and used the Hualien Lake Station as compensation for my mental damages. Under the gaze of everyone, Chen Jing said excitedly, that's right. From today on, our Chen family can grow chives in the spiritual fields of Hualien Lake. He said that he would never grow chives in King Niu Mountain, but he can grow them in Hualien Lake. The title has been changed to I Once Had a Family That Loved Me. If you have a fun and interesting title, please leave a comment. Chapter 50, Ambush. Chen Jing's coming down the mountain this time was what everyone expected. Last time, he had to ask Hua Kingsha to endorse him, so that his family could rest assured. Now he is doing well. He was despised like shit, and when he left, he was almost setting off firecrackers. It was the same treatment he received when he went back to his hometown for the new year in his previous life. It's just that I planted a few thousand kilograms of leeks, and I took most of them away. Chen sighed. At this moment, the wind blew with a hint of coolness. On the quiet mountain path, a fallen leaf shattered into slag, followed by the second, third, and millions of pieces next to it, which shattered in an instant. The invisible force was like a tide, gathering silently and rising like thunder. In a blink of an eye, it swept in front of Chen Jing like a gust of wind. He stared blankly at the scene of everything shattering in front of him, and then he felt severe pain all over his body. Bang, he exploded. Wow. A cold voice sounded in the sky. Chen Jing, you are indeed different. This illusion, I was wrong. No wonder you can defeat the enemy with a small number of people in succession. Senior in the Zuanayan period, you have the nerve to attack a junior like me, or even sneak attack. Chen Jing's voice sounded not far away. He looked at the sky with a serious face, but could not see anything. "What I want is your life, not anything else." The cold and old voice sounded again. Then, the invisible wind of annihilation blew again. It swept towards the place where Chen Jing's voice came from. The trees that several people hugged along the way seemed to be made of paper and shattered in an instant, leaving no trace of life. Faced with this destructive force, Chen Jing seemed to dare not play the trick of reality and illusion anymore. He used all his strength to perform the cloud and smoke illusion technique, blasting the white fog all over the sky and covering his figure. Then the spirit talisman was activated, and the whole person merged into the depths of the earth. Escape talisman. Junior, you are still a little naive. I'm waiting for you to use the escape talisman. In an instant, a pitch black flying sword fell from the sky, piercing the earth like a meteor, landing exactly in the light, wrapped by the earth escape talisman. Boom ha. After a spiritual sense scan, there was nothing in the earth escape talisman. The old man couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Old Deng, you still have to learn new tricks from the young people. Don't rely on your age. Chen Jing's relaxed voice appeared in the air. He looked at the figure hiding in the air, and a sword light whizzed away with a flick of his finger, aiming at the exposed big butt. The old man was angry. What a young man. His whole body of magic power was surging, and countless tiny black gravel formed a wall in front of him to block the flying sword. Lin Zu was fully prepared, but was still hit by a sword through the heart. At this time, only a bowl-sized dent was left on the black gravel wall. For a cultivator in the Zuanayan period, spiritual consciousness is not spiritual consciousness, but spiritual consciousness. Spiritual power is not spiritual power, but magic power. Normally, the power of flying swords is greater than that of talismans, and the power of talismans is greater than the spells cast by the cultivators themselves. However, at this time, the old man in the Zuanayan period used his magic power to cast spells, and it was easy for him to resist the flying sword with magic, showing the amazing advantage brought by the realm. How dare you attack me, arrogant? The old man was about to make a few more taunts, but he didn't expect that a ray of light suddenly disappeared. It was the light of the earth escape talisman. He was stunned. His spiritual consciousness swept the disappearing light and then glanced at Chen Jing, who was standing not far away, and he couldn't figure out the situation for a while. Chen Jing said, "Don't look at it. The me in front of you is just an illusion. The real me has slipped away. Even if you are a Zuanayan, if you don't chase me in the first time, you can't run faster than the earth escape talisman." Okay, I never thought that I would be fooled by you, but you can run. Where can your people run to? The old man's gloomy eyes were filled with murderous intent. Chen Jing did not answer, but just said, "It has been about 2 decades since now. Among the cultivators around Ning Mansion in the past, the most famous one was the one from the Yang family. He could control the wind in 10 different forms with one hand and move freely among the crowd. He wielded the red glass sword with his superb skills and was unstoppable. He made a great reputation. And the one who was of the same generation as him and was once as famous as him was you, right, old man of the Qi family?" Old man Qi's eyes became even deeper. "Your hidden sword and black iron curtain are easy to recognize. In the past, your Qi family had more than 20 cultivators in each generation, and each generation had a black seal. There were even genius disciples who went to the Qingnang sect, but unfortunately, you were not satisfied and wanted to encroach on the Yang family next door. The Yang family was unwilling to sit and wait for death, and tried their best to raise a monster. One person beat you to a pulp. The Qi family was originally thriving, but now it can only be trapped in one side. There should be no one who knows better than your Qi family what the consequences of provoking a genius are. Or if you don't think I'm a genius, you can go to Qingniu Mountain and try." Chen Jing said this. The reason why old Master Yang didn't destroy the Qi family was just because old man Yang still had a family, and he was afraid that the old man in front of him would take revenge after he got away. Similarly, the old man said Qingniu Mountain just to scare him. Seeing that Chen Jing was young, he might be able to trick him out. But since Chen Jing said so, it was naturally impossible. Old Master Qi's eyes changed. He took a deep breath and said, "The chili sword is in your hand. What is your relationship with the Yang family? If there is no relationship, today's incident is just a misunderstanding." Answer me first. How do you know the chili sword is in my hand? The news came from the Yang family. Oh. Chen Jing immediately understood that the old master of the Yang family should be dying, and then said, a few months ago, Yang crossing of the Yang family visited my father and proposed marriage with a chili sword. My father did not agree, so he only exchanged it for some cultivation resources of my Chen family. There is no other relationship. I see. Old Master Qi's expression eased and said, since you know the grievances between my Qi family and the Yang family, you should understand that this attack on you is just a misunderstanding. My Qi family will compensate you later. Chen Jing was a little unwilling and shouted at him, the compensation better not let me down. Sure. After that, Old Master Qi turned around and wanted to leave. He didn't expect that he bullied the weak with a sneak attack, but he still let the enemy escape. It was really embarrassing. He also made an enemy with a genius for no reason. It would be troublesome to deal with it later. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Dao, please stay. When he turned around, a ball of raging fire suddenly ignited under his feet, and a huge firebird flapped its wings and flew upwards. Looking down and seeing the familiar red glass sword, Old Master Qi was horrified. The fear of being dominated suddenly surged in his heart, and he ran away without looking back. However, the reason why sneak attacks are called sneak attacks is that once you are not prepared, you will definitely hit. Old Master Qi flew a few meters on his sword, and then he was caught up by the firebird, and a huge fire tornado swallowed him up in an instant. The monks are all fragile, and the damage is seriously overflowing. This means that the magic spells of the 3rd level flying sword can be fatal if they hit. You want to run away after you attacked me? Under my feet. Chen Jing, who succeeded in the sneak attack, released several talismans and flew towards the screaming people in the sky to increase the damage. The second escape talisman was also a trick. He didn't run away at all. One of the benefits of seeing the gods is that Chen Jing has a spiritual incarnation. If he has a spiritual incarnation, he should have spiritual consciousness. This also makes his illusions difficult for the Zuanayan period to understand for a while. You, young man, die. Old Master Qi, who took the blow of the flying sword, used all his skills and finally escaped from the firebird wrapping of the chili sword. His spiritual consciousness swept down. The imagined Old Master Yang was not there at all. The one who fought with him was actually the kid from the Chen family who decided to let him go. Old Master Qi was immediately furious. He endured his injuries and summoned the flying sword to attack. The next second, Chen Jing disappeared suddenly and ran away after the fight. The familiar light of the earth escape talisman flew towards the distance, but Old Master Qi's flying sword gathered momentum for a long time, but did not dare to pierce it. The 2 earth escape talismans were illusions. What should I do if it is an illusion again this time? What kind of illusion is this? How can even the divine consciousness not see through it? Newbies, please read on. Bow to the masters. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.